G'day, citizens. Yeah, you can tell I'm off to a great start, can't you? Right, welcome to the Inforunners. I've almost lost my voice again. How you doing, Algared? You had a good week?
I'm doing fairly well.
We're also joined by Voice in the Void because my voice is about to fuck off. So Pete's here to help out. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing all right, mate. Hello.
Yeah. Pete's here because I finally managed to convince him to join us. So the claims that I hate him are clearly not true. And his claim, my fear that he hated me is clearly not true either. So I'm feeling. I
have a lot of respect for you, Al. The thing is, I know you're a school teacher, and I know you've not got time for juvenile bullshit outside of school hours. So I just didn't want to ever bother you.
Oh my god! Mate. I wish you'd seen the camera earlier. Now.
Dang it!
Oh dear. Anyway. Right, so a lot went on this week. I think obviously the one thing that people are going to want us to talk about is the buyback situation. I have... Oh, your camera just went off completely, Algared. Did you close your browser or something?
I did close my browser.
You donkey.
Right. I know.
Right, all right. He'll be back. So...
I will be back.
Can you hear me or not? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'll just talk to you, Pete, because I don't know what Algared's doing. There he is, he's back.
I'm back.
All right, so the buyback situation, I've thought about this, and if you kind of run it through, you can look at it an attack against us, right, as
backers and all the other stuff.
All that type of stuff. But realistically, I think it's actually protecting us from the black market, or future people from the black market. Because back when they said that they were going to give us a heads up, right? If they'd given us a heads up, we would, that's fine. But they hadn't intended on the black market being a thing. And let's be honest, think about all the ones that you've got in buyback, I've got in buyback, all that type of thing. How many people on the black market would have brought all those back, knowing they got it for 5 and they could sell it for 10?
Yep.
Right. And that's what they're trying to do, because they don't want any second on sellers. If they're trying to sell it, excuse me, like a collector's edition or something like that. So, even though you can get the standard edition for 5 and they're trying to, make money.
Yep.
And let's be honest, we've got to protect the company. We've got to keep the game running. That's why I think it was done. I don't think it was done as an attack on us at all. In fact, I'd be willing to bet if you reached out to Concierge and you wanted one, like as in you didn't have one personally, but you had one in buyback, they'll let you get it back. I'd be willing to bet money on that.
Now, Hudson Hawk, you are wrong. There is a black market. The black market is selling of game accounts, and people have been doing that.
I mean, grey market, black market, it's the same shit. They're all different shades of grey, but you get my point. Yeah.
Yep. But certainly for the buying back of starter packs is big. The other thing I did notice this week is the old packs, like the old Explorer pack. The super cheap Explorer pack. That is no longer available. And that wasn't a game pack, but again, that feeds in to what you were saying about protecting the company. Yeah, I was looking today and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, didn't know about that one. Yeah, that's
that one surprised me. So
the other one was... Oh, go ahead, Pete.
The thing is, we can't really act surprised. Xylo did say in 2016 that this would be going away. They've given us 10 years to adapt to it.
Yeah, but I think people wanted sooner warning. 10 years.
They gave us 10 years.
10 years, bro. 10 years, it's too soon. but you know what I mean. Like, they have said that it was going away. They've said it for years, but I think people wanted like a 1 month warning or even a 3-day warning, right? But the more I've thought about it, it's for the black and the grey market, not the and I just call them the black market because whatever. But I think it's for that more than anything. And again, as I said, if you reached out to CIG and you didn't have one, but you had one in buyback that you wanted for yourself, that'll allow you to buy it back but not make it giftable. Because that's the other thing. I've actually ran into people, right? I ran into a guy who was telling me he had like those old packs you and I had, like the digital pack or the digital freelancer and stuff like that. He had about 10 of them, and they're all now non-giftable. So they're useless to him because he brought them with the intention of giving them away to people, and he had them just sitting there. He did everything right, but now they're not giftable. So that's where I'm like, that's a bit shit, right?
Yeah.
Because he did the right thing. He held on to them. They weren't in buyback. Think about the outlay for that. That's like $1,000 plus.
He still has them on his account. You just can't gift them.
Yeah, they're on his account. He had them all paid off and all that, but he intended to give them to people when the game came out, and so now he can't gift them. So not only have they made it so you can't buy back Squadron 42, you also can't gift it to anyone else if it's in that pack. And I'm wondering, Algared, that pack you're talking about, the really big one, did it contain Squadron?
I don't believe it did. I believe the old Explorer pack only had the Carrack and the 5 ships, or the 4 ships.
Okay.
So I don't think it was a game pack. I'd have to go back and have a look at one I've got in my account still. But yeah.
Interesting.
I was surprised to see that. Other game packs didn't really surprise me, but that I don't think was a game pack.
Interesting.
Actually, I will do a quick check.
Do you have a legacy game pack yourself, Pete?
Unfortunately, my Squadron package was in buyback when this happened, so technically no.
Fuck, Pete. Oh dear.
Okay, Pete. Shocker.
I heard it go the other way too. Someone gifted only like half a week ago. Gifted Grim one, and he's got one that someone gifted him, which I think is pretty funny. Got a cut on my face. I wasn't there yesterday.
Couldn't be from shaving.
No, maybe with an axe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are an executor, so yeah.
Anyway, I
One
don't
could
know how I got
expect such things.
that. How I got that. That's quite a big cut. Must have nicked myself on something. Anyway.
Could you turn me down like 10, 15 decibels, please? I think I'm really loud.
I can't because of the way it's set up. I don't have individual channels, so you'd have to turn yourself down.
I got you.
Yep. So apologies, but yeah, you are nice and loud. But I've got everything set up around Algared because he's so bloody quiet. So yeah, like anyway. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see what chat kind of thinks. Usually, most of our audience is pretty switched on. They've had to think about it for themselves. It doesn't work that simple, unfortunately, Murata, because there's different sound channels in the background. So if I turn him down on Discord, he's just quiet for me, unfortunately. And if I also turn it down on the Go XLR, it also turns Algared down. So yeah, it's just the tech that we've got, and that's just how it is. It's really bad. Anyway, so let me know, chat. What's your kind of thoughts? Have you guys seen any chats come in from anyone? All they do was make anything Squadron 42 not giftable, problem solved. But then you could have still. Well, yes, that is true actually, because once you buy it back, you can't give it to anyone else. Yeah, that is true, Parker. It is a bit overkill to stop you yourself from buying it back. I agree, actually. Now I think about that. That means, Pete, you could have brought it back for yourself.
Well, the plan was I've spent collectively about £1,000 on this game over the years, and I was using that sort of pool of money to sort of melt and buy ships to see what the flavour of the month was.
Yeah.
And I just used my squadron and my game package for account credit.
Yep. We also found out if you had the game this is the weird thing, right? If you have the game individually, right? So you know how you could buy off the website for like $50 ages ago, or $45 or whatever it was. Those are still giftable. So how come packs aren't, but the individual game is? You can't buy it back, but if you already have it on your account, it's giftable.
What makes it a pack?
When it's got it's like a bundle, like a bundle.
Okay. So if you've got a copy of the game, you can buy it back from buybacks, but if it comes with anything PE related, you can't.
No, you can't buy it back, but if it's on the account, you can still gift it. It's a really weird situation. Yeah. So, because the same guy that had the multiple packs of ships that he can't gift, he had about 12 copies of it that he could gift. So, yeah. I went around and asked some people that I know that have some really big collections of stuff. And that's how I found a lot of the intricate stuff out. But, yeah, it was really weird.
So that UE Exploration pack, the 2948 pack, the one that had the Terrapin, the and,
yeah, I know
Carrack and all the rest of it, it did have Squadron 42.
And that would be why then.
So basically anything with Squadron 42 is now not able to be unmelted.
Yep. And it's really weird because I've never seen it kind of blacked out like that before ever. I could probably hang on, give me a minute. I can probably bring up my hanger. Bring you guys across. Did you come across? Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Let's go have a
So you guys will probably know this.
Yeah.
You know how if you buy like a copy of the PU twice, you get like an avatar you can use in game, essentially like an NPC.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
Is that applied at all to squadron packages?
No, it's only the Star Citizen, and it's after the first Star Citizen package. So you'd have to have two, to kind of get that.
But I was just wondering if maybe the people with these multiple copies of Squadron perhaps got something in the PU for it.
That's a good question. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they do.
Yeah. I thought I must already have Hangar Explorer off. Where is it?
Yes, Grim, it's probably true.
Yeah.
Grim's saying in chat that it feels like every Invictus, we go into it with a side dish of negative press. And
yeah, this is true. You're welcome to jump on, Grim, if you're not feeding your face.
And I think that aspect is partly because usually Invictus is the start of everything gearing up for that's where you get the end of a quiet period.
So you can just real quick, you can see right there, completely blacked out, which is I've just never seen anything like that before.
Oh, I noticed it myself. As packs that were available last week aren't available this week. Okay.
Yes.
Not that it really worried me, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about you boys, but it feels like we're like ending an era, like a closing of a door, and it feels like, we're all resistant to change, especially as we get older, right? And I think that's a part of it too. Like, the only problem I'm going to have, and I really wish there was a way we could tell the difference, but what's it going to be like in a year, 2 years? How am I going to tell the difference between an older citizen and a newer one? You know what I mean? Because I think it's fundamentally going to change how the game works. Like, we've got such a friendly community. I just wonder what's going to happen, and I can't imagine it's going to be good. Like, you know how we've seen the game get bigger, right? And the way they've treated the community over the years, I can't imagine what it's going to like when the floodgates open. Like, I think it's going to get even. What I mean is they're going to be more closed off. So yeah, you feel betrayed. No, I don't think it's a betrayal. It is a sign of that they are getting ready to release Squadron. That's a really big part of it. Grim and I did have a quick talk about this yesterday. But I think where we kind of landed, and Grim, if I put words in your mouth, feel free to speak up. But basically, we kind of believe that means there's an announcement coming at Invictus.
Basically, when I saw that those packs were gone, and I was surprised to see that the packs I'd forgotten had Squadron not be able to be bought back. But to me, the killing of that buyback is just screaming. Squadron is not just coming; it's at the door and knocking.
Let me. I didn't actually finish what I was saying. So, with a pre-order type thing for Squadron, right? So they're going to probably put things up that you can order. The other thing I've noticed, and I don't know, I didn't talk about this with Grim, so this is an extra bit. But have you boys both noticed that we're basically getting a ship every 2 weeks for the last couple of weeks? So you guys kind of noticed that?
Yeah.
So imagine, how do you keep hype up for 6 months?
You keep
more ships.
That's 12 ships. That's all that is. That's not that many ships when you pan it out. And it's not even 6 months, it's actually 5 because you've only got to get to October. So it's only 10 ships. See where I'm going? So if you can maintain a ship every 2 weeks for 5 months, that'll keep the hype going.
Yeah.
It won't die.
And that keeps us super busy.
And if you can kind of exactly, and if you can kind of think about how the ships you're giving or releasing kind of build up and crescendo,
getting bigger and bigger and bigger,
or not just bigger and bigger and bigger, but more and more interesting, right? You know, that could also roll into it as well. So it's just something I was thinking about last night on my own, but I wanted to share that and kind of just get your thoughts because I think it's entirely plausible. So you start with this kind of big bang of Invictus with more ships than we've kind of had before. I don't know. What Pete? I'll go to you first because you tend to have a more outsider opinion than me, and Algared tend to be more in alignment. So, but what's your take?
I think they learned from. I think part of it is they're training more and more people up, so they can have redundancy in that department because a lot of their finances depends on the ships that are released. I think that they're getting the fruits of that labor now. Now a lot of the people from last year and the year before that are actually trained now start to put assets out. We're starting to see it.
So do you think what I'm saying there it would kind of work as like free marketing? Because it's cheaper to kind of release ships and make money than, like, they don't really have the money to do this massive Grand Theft Auto 5, Auto 6 marketing campaign. I think they've got to be a bit more guerrilla warfare-ish, right? So if they build it hype up with us, we will kind of spread word of mouth. Do you think that will kind of work?
It's given them $1 billion so far. Why stop now?
Yeah, that's true. And I do think when... Go ahead, Algared.
Start the bot.
Oh, yeah, shit. I should do that. No,
Sorry,
I'm a little under the weather.
Yep, that's okay. I tend to agree with you. My question is, do you think we know that a battle cruiser coming? They've said that the battle cruiser coming. Based on that, would you do your battle cruiser at Invictus, or would you leave it for the actual launch of Squadron? And my thought is, I'd do it at the launch of Squadron.
No, I don't think that's the one they're doing. Well, look at it this way. Not everyone can afford 5,000, right? And the people that are going to buy a ship like that are show ponies. I was very blunt about it on Grim Scream, right? The people that buy those ships are to kind of, they want the exclusivity. And to put it in a frame of reference, if they sold 300 of them, and you know how the Javelins were sold, right? So 300 is realistic, right? That's only, and they sold it at 5K. That's 1.5 million. Now you turn around and sell a ship like the Wolf or the Alpha Wolf at $100,
and you sell,
but they sell like 5 million, right? Yep. You see the math. So the money isn't in the big ships; it's in the smaller ships, right? Now, if you were going to release the most all-round ship in the game that I've been talking to you about for a couple of weeks now, what would that ship be? It's on the tin, literally on the tin, Algared.
One of the issues they have is because it is such a big ship, it's going to be competing with the other big ships in its class, like the Idrises and stuff. So they've got to find a way to sell it without competing with their established Idris sales and their Polaris sales and stuff.
And that's why they've already started putting those little hints out, because I think they're going to roll up and hype it a little bit. I think they have to, because it's such a big ticket item. And I'm also wondering if they're willing to compromise and let Javelin owners get a CCU. Because even if it's just a CCU, at least then it's 2K. Right? That'd still make $2,000. If they're going to get greedy and try to make 5K, most people are just going to buy the credit version. If they don't get the credit version, then they go, fuck it, I'll just go back and get my Javelin. Right?
Where does 5K come from? Have we just assumed this price?
It's just an assumption based on the price of the Javelin, based on the rough size of the Bengal and stuff like that. It's a round number. It could be 4K. Okay. It could be... You know, we've talked about reasons why it could technically be cheaper, because they also, when they sold the concept of the Javelin, said this will be the most expensive player ship you can ever own. So they're now breaking that by selling this thing. So how do you unbreak that? Well, you sell it as just a hull, you sell it as a blueprint, you know, and then maybe you can bring the price down to 2.5K.
I would thought the battlecruiser would be a blueprint. I think going forward they'll eventually go that line.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
And rather get into the weeds, we just go, well, let's try and simplify it. If it was just a ship, 5K, right? That sounds reasonable. And no, it doesn't sound reasonable, but you get what I mean, right? I could look at me with reasonable. Sorry. But you know what I mean, right?
Yep.
It's plausible based on the price of the jump. Because this thing's bigger than a Javelin. It's, you know, if you look at the size, we're roughly basing it on the size of the Javelin to the size of the battlecruiser. But we now have evidence that it's Anvil, which is really good. You know, I've heard things to the effect that what this thing does is kind of crazy. Me and Grim did a bit of speculation on what it could do. And when you try to sit there and try to make it not just a bigger Javelin, there is some really interesting things that come out, like, does it have drones? Is it more about like a repairing other vehicle type of thing? Does it have these massive intel scanners? Because again, we went into the lore of Odin Algared. Does it have weapons on it? And the weapons are named after like the ravens, Odin's spear, shit like that. We went down like a few little weird lines like that. And there was some just really cool little things that came out. He you know, of the powers of Odin and what it could be. It was kind of interesting.
Is it not just like the UEC Stanton where it's named after the Odin system?
Hey, he's a smart cookie. Yes, that is why it's called Odin. Because clearly there's going to be some kind of fight in the Odin system, and the ship is named after that. And I don't think the battlecruiser is coming until episode 3. And again, again, looking at the lore stuff that I've learned off Algared and Poral over the years, that's how I got to this. So Algared can tell it better than I can, so I'll let him take it away. But episode 1 Algared is Aegis. Episode 2 RSI, Drake maybe, and then 3 would be Anvil. Yeah,
it would be a harder one to gauge because you have to look at that. But yeah, it seems a reasonable thing. But it's the naming of a ship, certainly, like the Idris is named after the Idris system where it was first used in the Battle of Idris.
Yeah.
So there's kind of pools in that. So yeah, a lot of the areas do get named after the systems. So.
Yeah. And I literally showed that on the stream. I actually brought up the Idris system, the Odin system, the Anvil upgrade thing. Yeah, I do also wonder if there is. You remember when we looked up the AMD update and they had Anvil and Consolidate Outland?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost wondering if there's a tie-in with AMD in the Battlecruiser now.
Yep. No, it could very well be.
Because it said Anvil as well. So it might not be a Mustang rework. It might be something to do with the Battlecruiser. So we'll see. But those 4 variants just sitting there ready to go is a bit weird. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's Maybelline. I got no clue. But again, you got all these dots and you're trying to arrange the dots how you can. But yeah, it'll be anyway. Regardless, next week is going to be interesting because it's on the what is it? The 25th is the first day. So it'll be literally this time next week. We'll probably know, which will be really interesting. And I'm sure you guys will let us know if me and Algared wake up and nothing's happened. We'll get screamed at.
Yeah, and I did notice there was also one of the people sponsoring has got a PC giveaway.
Yeah.
With an AMD chip and AMD.
Was it CLX? I think they're called the computer people. CLX.
Yep, and they've got the AMD chip and these graphics cards. So,
yeah, interesting to see what happens. They've never been to this event before, but AMD have been before, and the fact that CRG are kind of being dragged along to it kind of tells me that's weird to me.
Something's brewing.
Yeah, something's brewing. Whether it's and again, the fact that it lines up exactly 2 weeks after the whole B. And we've been on this 2-week streak. It can't be a coincidence, or at least to me, anyway. But we'll see.
It does very much seem like the dots are in a row, and we're joining dots, and it makes sense.
Yeah, and the overflow of ships too. Like, when's the last time you kind of saw a ship come out and a vehicle just you know, like if we'd gone back only a couple of years, that vehicle would have been sold on its own, right? Think back a couple of Invictuses ago where we had the Fury, we had the Lynx. I can't remember the other one, but there was 2 land vehicles and a snub for the entirety of Invictus, right? So it's a complete. We're about to flip. Like they've got ships falling out their butthole if they're literally just chucking the UTV in with a whole B, and they're doing it every 2 weeks. So
it kind of suggests they've got something in the range ready for Invictus because they don't want it to compete.
Exactly.
Well, apparently, Rabbit sent us a sneak peek of an old Reddit.com Star Citizen community Anvil sneak.
Right.
But it got deleted by the bot. So
yeah, hold on, I can grab it. I'll have a look at it, make sure it's not midget porn or something like that.
Yep.
You never know with that rabbit though.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Rabbits, you know what they're like.
I don't know what this is. Hang on, what is it? So this is today's sneak peek. Yeah, he sent that in the most obscuse way. So what is it? What was the comment? Hang on, I'll go back. Big things come on small packages, and this is just a sneak peek for this week. All right, well, let's have a look. He could have just sent the image, but anyway.
Drake command module.
That's what I'm thinking. You think they speak Drake to you, Algared? The seat's not exactly Drake, is it? But there's the band.
It looks too plain.
Netting and stuff above it. That's Drake.
What above it? Sorry, this shit.
Oh, look above the seat. It's like a red thing in netting.
Yeah, but it's a newer Drake too, though. At the same time, so again,
And module.
No. It is the command module. But what I'm saying is, why I'm questioning it is one of the things me and Grim have noticed is they've got these kind of new, more stylized kits that we've seen now for RSI. We saw it in Drake only in images in Drake. So the interior, the ironclad, you know how you and I were talking about the frame of the cockpit. This isn't showing the anterior as had a pass now, another pass as well. And we also saw it in the MISC in the whole B. Like they've got changes to them all. They've all kind of gone up a notch. And so you can tell now that when they go back and do gold passes, all those ships are going to be brought up to that standard.
All those assets get that polish.
Kind of like how we were talking about the wasp-like look of the whole B, it just completely disappeared because essentially they're changing the style of these to be the more modern look. They're leaving that older stuff behind, which is the same reason why I'm pretty sure the Connie's getting a rework, and the Caterpillar, and the Freelancer, and the Starfarer. Pick your older ship, you know, because they're all. Sadly, I think the only one that would make the bar right now is probably the 400 series, the 100, and maybe just the 300. But yeah, a lot of the Origin ship. Let's be honest, a lot of people think I hate Origin, right? But Algared will tell you I don't. It might come out like I hate, but I just want them to do something, and I want them to actually look what it says on the tin, right? They don't do as well as they could, as what they could on the tin. And another example that you would agree with, Algared, is the fucking Phoenix. It's the same shit, just worse.
No, it's true. The problem with I think the problem with things like the 890 jump is the fact that it's got gameplay loops based in there, like cooking. You know, being a shop in terms of a bar and a restaurant, and yet that's a significant part of that ship. When you go into an 890 jump, you've got this massive kitchen and storeroom, and you know, then the elevator's going up to the bar and the restaurant, and yet that's wasted space. It's there's no gameplay for it at present. So yeah, it doesn't do what you'd want it to do.
Really quick, Pete, I actually think this is one of the jump seats. I don't think this is one of the pilot seats. I guess like up against the wall.
Maybe. It looks too symmetrical though.
Well, it also allow you to wear a bigger armor or something. Was my thinking.
Maybe, yeah.
See how the lighting's kind of top down? You kind of wouldn't have that so much on a pilot. Yeah.
So it's like a jump seat in a series. It's not necessarily the pilot seat or the center seat.
Well, that's the primary difference between the two command modules on the Caterpillar and the Ironclad is you have to have an extra, I think it was an extra 4 seats on the Ironclad command module because it also is the escape pod. So to fit everyone in. Hey, Grim, how you doing? You want to weigh on this one, Grim?
Yeah, it's 100. Well, I don't want to say it's 99% Drake because it uses Drake kit parts. Like literally, I've seen the parts in the Drake kit. Now, the reason I say 99% is because go ahead.
And he looked up Drake's skirt. That's how we knew. Anyway.
Yeah, but I say 99% because obviously they could have used Drake parts in a different ship, but it is Drake parts. The seat itself is a Drake kit piece. The pipes are Drake kit piece, and the netting is a Drake kit piece. Again, not that they couldn't use it in another manufacturer, but it is part of the Drake kit.
Yep.
It looks
With the Ironclad, it'd be odd if it isn't the Ironclad.
I would like it to be a new Drake ship that also uses the command module.
That would be
like
cool.
a smaller one. That would be cool.
But if it is in the command module, would you kind of agree with me? It looks more like a jump seat than, or like a passenger seat.
Yeah.
Because the command module seats usually have stuff behind them, nothing behind them. You know what I mean? Like there's no wall. And this looks about stomach height. So you would expect hang on, I got to go onto the browser. You'd expect up here and up here to kind of be vacant. That to me looks like the wall. So it's kind of like up against the wall, which tells me it's more likely one of the jump seats than,
I think it might be maybe a turret seat or a secondary seat because you can sort of see an MFD in the corner behind your head.
I'll give you the turret seat. I'll give you the top. Yeah, that could be the same case. But again, it just looks like it's up against a wall of some description. So yeah,
it's almost not the pilot seat because there's not enough room. It doesn't fit well with the scale of the Ironclad or the command module. It just seems too small.
Yeah.
Now I will send you Execute. I'll DM you an image. Now this is from someone in my Discord, Artec, but you can see here a current Drake seat and this one have the same pattern, albeit this one's a slightly better resolution and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, my first thought that turned me off was the texture. I'm like, that's not Drake. That looks like bloody Handful or Aegis or RSI. Like it's leathery. Yeah. It's not this fabric bullshit.
Well, yeah, and again, it's not to say they couldn't take parts of that kit and use somewhere else. It said they could do that. I haven't seen them do that yet, but they definitely could do that. I mean, there's nothing saying that they can't. But there are things there that are definitely Drake for sure.
We are seeing signs though that Grays has really kind of taken over more of the Drake aesthetic though a little bit, a little bit.
But that seems too polished to be a Grey ship. Grays seem to be the old.
It's the other way out. Like if you look at the difference between the two seats, this looks like I know it's the same pack, right? So I know it's Drake. But that looks too good of a condition to be Drake. This is the Drake I know. But that's why Grim have been saying there's a new polishing of the kit because there's this drastic change, and we've seen it in RSI, and we've now seen it in MISC, and I think we're about to see it again.
But that's what I was saying. This seems too polished to be for Grey ships because they seem to be more.
You just said it backwards.
Rough and ready.
Instead of talking about Drake, you're talking about Grays, so you're just saying it backwards. That's why I was confused. That's fine.
But what I was looking at that, when you were saying it looks like a jump seat and to wear heavy armor, those things at the side, I was wondering, are they a weapons rack?
True.
On the wall.
Yep.
So possibly, but yeah.
Greys isn't officially endorsed by Drake at all, are they? They're just like some third-party chop shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to hop on and say that real quick, just because I'm lurking, but I'll let you guys get back to it. I'm going to be listening in. Talk to you later.
Okay. Cool. Feel free to come back if you want.
See ya. Yeah. So, I think we saw the command module in the last sneak peek as well. So where my brain is going is I think we're going to get the command module as a separate ship now. I think we're going to get the command module first. And then the Ironclad at the end of because Drake Defense Con is 2 weeks. Oh, I think we get the command module at the start, the Ironclad at the end. That's where my brain's going now. I thought it was going to be a new ship, but the way the command module's been going through the monthly report, it's talked about like it's a separate ship.
Yep. And I could possibly see them bring out, and I'm saying possibly like small, see them bring out a another module that went onto the, another ship, a medium ship that went on to give a third thing that used the command module. But that,
I'm very excited about its command module tech. It opens the doors to some very interesting sci-fi concepts.
Yeah, it really does. It really, really does.
Can you imagine being able to chain like command modules together, like a snake, stuff like that?
You could have, like, we talked about weird ass ships way back in the back. Like, imagine, like, you got like 5 Merlins that kind of fly in and they all just kind of detach from a ring, and or Furies or whatever. You could have some really amazingly cool things.
I like the idea of a if you know Babylon 5, in the early series there was the Raiders, and they had this kind of mothership which would ring, and the fighters actually launched off it, very much like.
Yeah,
I'd love to see something like that.
That's the thing; it really does open the door to things like motherships.
Yeah.
Like think of all the cool sci-fi films where, like at Independence Day, where you've got the giant thing, and then you've got smaller giant things, and then even smaller giant things.
No, 100%. So
one of the things that
go ahead.
One of the things that makes me not think they'd go down that line, Pete, is the fact that a caterpillar used to be. I'm sure you remember X when the caterpillar first came out. You had your nose piece, and the idea was you could have multiple little sections that you kind of tacked onto your caterpillar to make it longer or thinner. And then they went, no, there's got to be 5. And then they kind of locked it in even further. But and I think part of it was just, man, we make it 6 or 7, right? That's every time they added a section, it's a brand new ship and brand new damage states and brand new, and it would have just been increasing the workload that the caterpillar needed. So they limited that. And it'd be the same thing if you were doing command module, and linking multiple things together to make a snake. So
yeah, I think that's what they're going to do with something like the caterpillar too. They'll just mark to it because of all the complexity of it. You could simplify it and make it a lot easier for the modules and stuff like that. You wouldn't realistically have doors that are elevators. You'd just have them turn into ramps or something like that. You'd make it easy to load. You'd probably widen it a little bit so it can take 32 SU containers rather than 24. Just little weird things like that. So there's all these little fixes they could do to it. My problem with the Mark II stuff at the moment is just, it's going to sound weird, is the paints. Is when you hold on to paints. Like, and I talked about the Pirate Edition Caterpillar, right? So they bring out a Mark II. Do you honestly think they're going to give me a Pirate Edition Mark II? Nope.
No, I'll sell them.
Yeah. So
did you have to do an event to earn that skin, or could you just buy it?
Yeah, but I've also got it with LTI. So for the first year, you could get it with LTI. So mine's really rare. It's a Pirate Edition LTI.
If CIG did an event and gave you the skin for the second ship, would you be as upset?
I'd be totally fine, and I'd be totally fine with other people getting it. It's not me having exclusivity of it. It's me losing it. That's all it is.
But you haven't lost it. You still got it.
No, because then I want the newer one. Because I want.
Yeah, but that's not the one you have, though.
But the game's not even fucking out, Pete.
No, I understand where you're coming from there. Like, sunsetting a range of ships for a game that isn't even out yet is crazy.
Yeah.
But being upset that you don't have a skin for a ship that you didn't know existed is also as crazy in my mind.
No, but the only reason... But they've upgraded my ship. So I want the upgrade, but I also want the skin that I held onto the caterpillar for like over 10 years. Because I've got this rare skin and I've got this rare version of it. So I've done the right thing by them by holding on to my shit.
Yeah, but you still have it.
It hasn't
lost any value.
Yeah, but why do I want the older one when the newer one is what clearly what was intended? They should not,
because the old one's rare and it has the value that you were just talking about.
No, it doesn't, because it doesn't work properly.
If the thing is with the ships they're sunsetting, yes, they'll be supported in game, but I won't really get.
The function's not going to be on the same.
Updated.
Yeah, the function's not on par. Again, if I'm going to sit there and deal with, I'm never going to use it like that because it's got those weird 24 SCU boxes. I want the new shiny one. I'm not one of those. Like again, I didn't buy a scythe. I had the opportunity to buy a scythe. I could have easily bought a scythe. I didn't because I looked at it and went, it's not as good as the Hornet, and the Hornet at the time was $110, and this is $350. I went, nah, fuck that. The function just didn't make sense. Yeah, in hindsight, I could have made a fuck ton of money off it and sold it for $3,000 or whatever. But that's not what I was there for. I was after function, and so it was useless to me. So it's the same thing. I look at a Mark 1 Aurora and I look at a Mark 2. I want the fucking Mark 2. It's heaps better. It's just the same thing. And whatever happens with other ships they do that too, it'll be exactly the same thing. Because you can't tell me a Mark II Caterpillar would not be way more functional than a Mark 1.
Now, Robert JT says in Twitch that he'd never use an Aurora Mark 1 or a Hornet Mark 1 over a Mark 2.
Yep.
And there's only one case where I know that's not quite the case at the moment. That's the F7A Mark 1 is, according to people like Bob's, is better than the Mark 2 in combat.
Yeah, but again, that'll probably change or whatever. But that's more of a rare. Yeah, that's more of a rare outlier, and we also don't have armor in the game. There's so many other little things there to caveat that with. I would say generalistically, when something new comes out, it's better than the old one. Thank you,
Fabulous.
Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Sorry, mate. That's generally true, but like the only thing really that they've said is that is no longer to be sold. It should still be supported throughout its life. That's what they said.
Yes, but when you so if let me look at it in the most simple. I'm going to be rude here, right? If I support Algared and you support me, who's going to be better at games? I'm younger. It's just that simple. I'm newer. I'm a newer model, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm trying to make a blatant point. It's just that simple.
My reflexes are slow.
Yeah, the newer, sexier model is always going to beat the older one. And the only people that really want those old, rare, collectible people are basically the same people that buy Origin ships currently. They want something exclusive that nobody else has. It's what they want. They want to be able to fly around in a scythe and go, look, I've got a scythe. Suck shit. I've got this rare hamburger. You know, it's the same people that collect the Big Bennies, any of those really rare things. They want them because they want exclusive. They want to have something that nobody else has. But you look at the functionality of it, it doesn't make sense. It just
so there's a functionality power creep that you don't like.
Essentially, all I want is the things that I collected. I did the right thing on the Caterpillar, right? I held onto it. I didn't meld it. I sat there waiting for it to come out for over 10 years. And then if they bring out one and supersede it and don't give me everything I had on that one and transfer it over, and they didn't do that on the Aurora, by the way. They really released all the Aurora Mark 1 skins, right? All the ones people had hold on for years and years. And I got no problem with that, right? And you could buy them up for $5. At the Electro Hull skin, they haven't sold that one, but they had all the others they held on to, but they don't transfer over to the Mark 2, and that's ridiculous to me. Because for two reasons. You are not supporting the people that supported you, and two, everyone that buys them, you would sell more of them if they worked on the new ship. Because they're not going to buy the old one, they're going to want to buy the new one.
I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. Like, if the Aurora Mark II wasn't called the Aurora Mark II, nothing's changed.
Are you crazy?
Like, no. All they're saying is the ship that you love, we are no longer selling. It will still be supported in game, and we will update it as and when it needs to be.
Yeah, but
there is a new ship coming out that's replacing it. We're calling this the Mark II.
But the ship is the same price without the module. Like, Pete, we need to stop this because this has gone to lunacy. And I'm not going to sit here and argue with you on stream, but I'm telling you, you're wrong. Right? It's a function thing. The new ship is clearly way more functional than the old one. Right?
Yeah, but that's because they're learning how to make a game. Everything they make is going to be better than it was.
You've literally just Said my whole
And
argument. Because
that's part of the
it's
problem
not
with-
out yet. Everyone, you should almost do the Mark 1s to Mark 2s for free. You shouldn't be selling upgrades to a game that has not really been out yet. That's bullshit. I don't mind paying for the upgrade because, yes, they had to work on it. But by the same token, I want to bring everything that I sat and held on to, because I did right by you, over to the new one. That's my problem. I did right by you, you do right by me.
I still don't get it. I think if they just change the name to not a Mark 2, it'd be fine.
You don't get
It's
it. And
okay.
that's why you should just let it go. Because you clearly don't get it. It's fine.
You two are clearly not going to agree, and
Yeah,
that's fine. You're always welcome to those different opinions.
Exactly.
To me, the problem is the Mark 1s are sunsetted. They're no longer sold. They're not really getting the same support. Yes, they've brought them up to their current gold standard. The question is, are they going to keep maintaining those at that standard? And if they do, then yes, you're right, Pete. It's like a separate chip. But if they're actually sunsetting and taking them off and slowly disappearing them, then yeah, there is a case where you've sunsetted a ship that isn't in game, and you're asking me to pay extra to actually get the ship, to get the new version of a ship that is the new.
I agree with both of you
start.
there. Like,
You ask people to pay extra for skins. You ask people to pay extra for skins now on a ship that is sunsetted. That's kind of a bit bullshit, especially when they held on. It's different if they were there at the get-go and you can say, no, I don't want to buy them because you know what's going on. But when you're misinformed and you held onto them for 10 years, that's fucking insane.
I will be 100% behind you on this if they ever stop supporting those vehicles. Like if one day a new feature comes out and it's like not compatible with that vehicle for legacy reasons,
You're looking at it.
then I'll be right behind you.
You're looking at it at a price point of the skins, and you also don't.
I'm not. I don't care about the price point.
No,
I'm looking at it as it's a completely new ship. It's just got the same name as the old one.
But they don't.
And in that sense, Pete's right. Pete is saying the Mark II is a totally different ship. The problem with the Mark II and the Mark I is the Mark II is actually fulfilling exactly the same role as the Mark I.
Superseding.
It is superseding it. It's the new starter ship.
It's like
It's not-
imagine. I'll put it in a different way, right? Let's flip it around, right? And say it's so it's going from a Mark II to a Mark III, or say we were going from the Mark II back to the Mark I, right? If you had the modules, all the modules for the Mark II, and then all of a sudden they made it a non-modular ship like the Mark I, and those modules don't carry over or give you any benefit when it's being superseded, you'd be pissed as fuck. Because you'd used them, you'd brought them all for that, and now they're useless, and the value's completely gone down to zero. It's the same thing with the skins. The skins that I invested in and I held on to are now worth zero.
And
the accessories are worth zero.
And another aspect that to me kind of ties in is the fact that they're not about, you can't buy them in game. Fine, take them off your shop. Don't sell them in the shop, but let people buy them in the game. If it's still a separate ship that's not being superseded. The other thing with the Mark I Auroras is the new SC one.
Yeah,
that is basically the top end of where you'd have taken your Aurora to if you were using the old modular, the way it was originally come out as being modular and being able to change and upgrade. All the others, now that you've got that one, all the others are useless. The ES was useless to start with. It was the bare bones. But everything else, you may as well just get rid of those and just have an SC. And that's just my opinion. But yeah, I can see both. I can see both points that you guys are going. I do think at this point we have run this into the ground as a conversation point, and it's time to move on.
We've only got about 12 questions. If you guys want to get some more questions in, please feel free to do so. Got a first time chatter called Zap500 who says LX still has way more quantum fuel, but yeah.
Okay.
Probably a bug again. It'll probably get fixed. I wouldn't worry about it too much. They'll bring stuff in line down the road.
Because one of the things they did say with the SE was it was basically putting everything from all the others, combining them together. And so I do expect it'll get the quantum fuel boost that the LX has because it's combining everything. But yeah, it's basically, the Aurora Mark I is dead.
The only people that I know that picked up an SC were people that were collectors. I'll put it that way. And there were, half a dozen is probably all I heard about, but a lot more people picked up Mark IIs. So, and I bet you if CIG ever released the data on that, it would reflect that.
I did pick up a CU to an SE.
That's a clever idea. Yeah, that is a clever idea.
But I certainly wasn't going to buy one. And I've been contemplating, is it worth just getting rid of my Mark 1s altogether? Just CCU in. So that's...
but I agree. I agree with making all the skins and that available to everyone, by the way. I thought it was always silly that they were exclusive. Yep. It was definitely, it's not out.
But I will also be honest. Being a recovering victim of Pokemon syndrome, it is hard. So Pokemon syndrome is an insidious disease that does affect many citizens. So
many bullshit.
Lots. It does. There are different degrees of Pokemon syndrome. But when you've got it bad, it is something that's hard to recover from.
Right. We could probably go through this really quickly. This is the Battle Cruiser stuff. We'll have to like some Galactopedia stuff. But basically, if you look at the top comment down here, Algared, so the first time that this was ever commented on was the June 28th, 2013. So we're going back even before your time. That's how far back we're going. And they added an update here. I do have to open up the Galactopedia, but I always bloody forget where this thing is. What's it under? Galactopedia. There we go. And then we can type in Odin. And we get this reference. And there is an Odin, I think it's Odin's system. Sorry, I hit a key there. And I muted myself for a second. Odin system, we need to go back into Idris. And so yeah, long story short, let's look at it all here. So this is the update that they added. I'll zoom in, enhance. It is believed that Anvil will be revealing a brand new ship in 2956. that's this year, that Inside described as the future of modern naval warfare. And then therefore, if you look at the Idris system, I'm just going over the basics here, the Odin system, and that would imply why it's called the Odin. Pending review of the ARC research team. So why put a post like this that is just like, it's completely, they wanted this to be found. This is telling you that's a sneak peek, essentially.
It is a sneak peek. Now, that also says, and this ties in with what you were saying earlier about when they'd release it. Squadron 42 takes place 10 years ago, the Battle of Vega.
Mm-hmm. Well, it starts there.
It starts at the Battle of Vega. So I think first patch, the first game is kind of that. I imagine the second part is several years on, and then
there's probably a massive battle of Odin at some point, and the ship will be named after that. But I reckon it's going to turn up in episode 3, just based on the lore that we know that Aegis is meant to be on the way out, Anvil's meant to be on the way in. And then, so you get these different taste of ships. And you and I have talked about that many, 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 many times.
Yep.
You know, my brain kind of goes to Idris Javelin, other ships you're on in the first game. The second game, you're on like a Kraken Polaris type of thing situation. And then I think the last game, you'll probably be on, Anvil Battle Cruiser and some other ship we don't even know about.
Yep. And it kind of follows with Chris Roberts' Wing Commander series. Like, the last one, you had the Planet Killer ship. You know, they're big, one that wiped out the home world of Calorific. Now, Rabbit's saying what's happening in the Odin system, and for that, I think you really do want to open the map, because this ties in with the old argument of line 5.
Yeah.
So for years we knew they were going to do five systems. We knew we were getting Stanton because that's where we were. We knew that Pyro was going to be our second system, and so there were 3 other systems that we speculated were those. Odin was always one of the systems we included in that line of 5 for so many years. And that was because that's where Squadron 42 mainly takes place. And so if you took Odin as one of those starting points for as one of those line of 5 ships, you went Odin, then Nyx, then Pyro, then Stanton, and then there was one other planet that we always wondered about.
So you can kind of see it here.
Odin is Squadron 42.
You can see it here. Odin, Nyx, Pyro, Stanton, and then Terra. And if I turn on the jump points, which don't really have different sizes anymore, you can see though that they are all connected.
And so that's why when they did the line of 5 at Manchester, that was a surprise. That was the one that took me by surprise. That Odin wasn't one of the planets. But the planets they had, Castra, Terra, they were always being tossed around in the line of 5.
Yeah. I
think
Odin though is they kind of want to protect it for Squadron. I think they kind of want you to go through the episode 1, 2, 3, see what pops out, and then show you the new version of Odin. I think they kind of protect the storyline a little bit, because if you walk in there and something's blown up, it's like, oh, what happened there? You know, it kind of ruins the storyline or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bit like if you've ever played Guild Wars. Guild Wars 1, you've got the gate and everything else, and in Guild Wars 2, you can actually run around the old area, but it's all overgrown and changed, and you can just make out areas, but it's different. And I imagine they're going to do something like that with the Odin system. But yeah, like for ages, we always thought that Odin was going to be one of those first 5, and the reason so many commentators thought that it was because Odin was where Squadron 42 was taking place. It's where Shubin is. It's where things like that. So when they announced that the line of 5 didn't include Odin, that was a surprise. But it also opened up the chance to have Castra and Terra, which were the other 2 planets that had often been tossed in and argued over which one.
There'd been many other ones that were outside the line that had been argued what would be the one afterwards. But Castra, you can see why they picked it. It's small, it's easy to do, and it gives you some military stuff.
Yep.
So it's literally just 2 extra planets. So it's a fairly empty system by comparison to some of the others.
So with all these ships being named after systems, are the battles related to those systems like scaled based on the size of the ship? Like, would the Odin be the biggest battle because it's the biggest ship?
We have thought about that, but there's no guarantee.
The Idris is probably the ship that's most known for being named after a battle, and it's also the ship that probably has the dirtiest stain, and that's because it was at the Battle of Idris where Ivan Meza became the hero, and then had the frigate built as named after that battle, and so it was the big thing. But that starts the Meza era, and so the Idris is kind of a Meza favorite as well, and so it's kind of got that dirty stain. I'm surprised it doesn't have the dirtiest, the same negative in-law stain that the Retaliator has because of that link. But yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see how it's going to continue to fold out. Are they going to pick off smaller systems as they go? Are they going to pick bigger systems? Because like one of the ones we talked about a lot was Hadrian as well, because it's a lot like Pyro. It's got a lot of connections to other places. Also connected to Castra, also connected to Terra. You see, so when you can connect it to 2 or 3 other systems, Hadrian becomes a really good choice as the next one after that. But if you pick, say, and I know this is not connected, but like just say OSO, because again it's connected to Castor and Pyro.
Also,
Then something like Colorless, it's essentially become like a dead end. So you'd have to do a fake loop like they're doing with Nick's back to Stanton at the moment, you know. So if you can start to lay things out and leave them laid out, is that a benefit to them? We're going to learn as they create it and roll it out how they're going to do it. But I think we are going to have a lot of temporary connections like the Nick's to Stanton. As it grows from 3 and rolls out.
I think what they'll do is after the 5 we get the 1.0, I think they'll start dipping their toes into Vandal systems first, just to get the assets down and stuff.
So you reckon they'll go out this way?
I reckon they'll just head towards the V's.
I don't agree with that because I actually, and Algared will probably back me up on this, is we think a lot of these alien systems have essentially been hallmarked for expansions. So, and to give an example of the plan, we already know that there are aliens behind all 3 of these aliens. Why is that? Because that's an expansion after they make the expansion. So they're planning, if they are successful, to say they bring out a Zion expansion, maybe it's 3, Squadron 42 has 3 episodes. Maybe there's 3 episodes of this, So the first one is tied in with the humans. So you get a bit of familiarity and something new alien. Then you get something more exclusively Zion. And then the third one is Zion versus the Cathak? Algared? I think is that what they're called?
Yep.
Yeah, so
I believe it was Cathak.
And then that leads you on to who they are. And then if you come right around and do expansions for all of them, eventually you might get a Cathak expansion. So it allows them just a way to expand out the universe if they wish.
I see that.
World of Warcraft continually do it. I actually think the first expansion of race would be the Tavaran, and that would take us to the Browner system.
Yeah, I know.
Which is where there's that independent.
I think they'll utilize their assets that they already have. They've got so many Vandal assets from Squadron that have been polished. Why not just use them like they have been doing?
Okay, well, there's a couple of reasons. Zion is probably the most human linked, right? Banu have this more exclusive thing where they're like all their ships are unique. You don't really have an asset library for Banu, so they're gonna have a lot less ships. So if you wanted to do it from a less work to do perspective, it would probably be the Banu.
Really?
Yeah, because how many ships do they have?
They've got the Defender.
Yep, and
at the minute that's it.
No, it's the Defender and the Merchantman.
Huh?
Yeah, could you get in your Merchantman and go and fly it around for me, please?
No, but
the point is they've got 2 ships. Now, how many ships do the Zion have?
But look, that's what I mean. Look, if you're doing the same maths, look how many ships the Vandal have.
Calm down. So the Zion are going to have a lot more ships because if you look into the lore of the Banu, they kind of make one really good ship, and they have really dedicated roles for them. So they'll probably, when they bring the Banu out, they'll probably bring out some new ships to go along with that expansion. But it probably might be 5 or 6. It's not going to be like you go do the Zion. We know about ships in the Zion, like a whole bunch of ships in the Zion that they've talked about. So when they go do that, it might come with, it'll expand as well. It might come with 10 and then 10 more after that.
Of all the alien races that we have, which of them do you reckon they're going to expand into first? It's got to be the Vandal, surely, because of all the assets they already have.
I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee, right? The other thing is a lot of the Vandal ships are set pieces. They're not flyable by us. And do you really want king ships for players? Do you really want the Vandal pods that fly through and can board other people's ships for players? You see where I'm going here, right? It's got
surely they have ground-based assets and space station assets and stuff you can use just to decorate the space.
We've got no proof to the contrary of that. I've never seen. Have you seen a Vandal ground vehicle, Algared?
Nope.
But the point
closest I think we've seen is the Harvester, and it's basically a big ship.
The point I'm trying to get at though is they will probably have to make these for the races, right? Now, if you're looking at as in number of assets that you have to create. Because that, let's be honest, that's what you really look at. Not just what you've got, but what you've got to create. Knowing the Banu have less things than other races. And Algared's right in what he's saying, because they don't have to make any resources for the Tavaran because they're in with the humans. They belong with us, so they can make a one-off expansion or a triple expansion, right? Where and me and Aaron talked about this, where you go back into the Tavaran Wars and you make prequels that are back in time, right? So when you do the Sol system, you can bring the Tavaran being brought into the Sol system. That, you know, we know that you're going to find Tavaran ships out in the wild and Tavaran cultures from the things we've read, but by the same token, the Tavaran, they're a warlike species, so they're mainly going to have combat ships, and they're on a lower tech level than us, aren't they, Algared? So they're not going to. They were locked in one system, wasn't they? They couldn't. They didn't have jump tech from memory.
They didn't have jump tech at that time. They were kind of. They were comparable in sync. So they didn't have jump tech, but they had shield tech.
Yeah.
They had, you know, the air wars that we've got on our space stations, the shield tech. That stuff we took as victory spoils of war.
Yeah.
The only reason there's Tavaran law stuff or temples and stuff left is because we kept them to show, yeah, we beat you. The Tavaran tried to get rid of the stuff for their faith because it failed. But Rajoru was, it doesn't work. Rubbish, let's get rid of it.
I wouldn't rule the Vandal out, Pete, right? But I'm just saying it becomes like a guessing priority order, and I wouldn't put Vandal at the top of that list, to be honest with you, right? And it was also going to be what they feel like doing. Because me and Algared know from talking to them when we sat down with John and Ben, they do a lot of things by just how they feel. Like, where does their creative juices take them? So they could go to the one on the bottom of the list, the Cyan, and just go straight into the Cyan. Because that's the one they're feeling. You know, so, and I'm sure the writers are going to weigh in on that. CR is going to weigh in on that. You know, so it'll be something they decide as a company.
But probably the one thing I've heard from CIG workers in the past is that they'd love to see Tavaran. They'd love to play Tavaran. And that's, you know, it's a bit like guy from Turbulent who liked Kruger, whose name has just slipped from my mind.
First time chatter there, but I don't get what he's saying. Evercraft, do you want to read that, Algared? You might understand.
Yeah, so Evercraft17, first time chatter on Twitch, says they were able to immediately jump after the humans jumped away, so they had quantum, but they hadn't jumped yet. Yeah, that's true. They had quantum ability, so he's talking about the Tavaran.
Yeah, he's talking about...
So when the humans went into their system...
I think I get it now. So he's talking about in-system they can jump, but they can't jump through the jump points. Is that what he's... They didn't have a jump point technology. They hadn't discovered jump points. Yeah. They didn't have the faulty. They hadn't come across the faulty quantum system that would enable them to jump or find the jump points. So I suppose once the idea of once the humans have jumped through a jump point, they were, we can, and open a jump point. They could, yes, and they were able to do that. But they were comparable. It was a comparable will powers. They were so tough they almost beat us. And Battle of Idris is where the tide gets turned and we start to beat them. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be, you know, and again, say we do get all the way around and we have a Kathak expansion, we would already also learn about an alien behind them. So it's just a way, almost like a whirlpool, Pete, that you can just continually keep expanding the universe if they wish, which is what we worked out ages ago.
And that makes sense. It's what you see with World of Warcraft. You see it with any MMO that goes for a long time. The new expansion comes out, new species comes out, new race comes out, new class comes out. It's no different.
And you can even see things laid out, planned out here in the browser too. Like, let's just give an example. Let's Branniger, right? You know, you can clearly kind of see that there's probably going to be a jump point discovered from Odin to Branniger at some point. You know, there might even be a new system in here that gets discovered. You just don't know, but you can kind of see that they've, you know, these ones on the fringes have kind of been laid out. You know,
now, if I'm correct, Branna is a system where the Tavaran have got their homeworld, and we know from lore the stories of a Tavaran who left the UEE because he was sick and tired of things not being being anti-Tavaran and not being Tavaran enough. And he goes to Branner. And he goes, yeah, what you guys are doing is not Tavaran. It's an aberration. And he ends up going back to the UE.
Yeah.
And so you've got, so this, and the current jump points don't really seem to make it easy for this person to leave Vega, or this Tavaran to leave Vega, where the colony is, and go to Branner. And so,
So Mega Tiger Ninja says bring in the Karathi, and that's something me and Algared have even talked about. Wouldn't it be really cool if the aliens behind the Vandal were the Karathi? And EA's copyright claim on Wing Commander is about to expire, so they could pick that up if EA let it expire.
I'm sure you remember that the Tavaran, the Vandal were originally talked about as being very cat-like, and having the cat-like stance, and they were almost
now they're more piranha-like, and it would be really funny to see cats go after fish. Just saying.
Yeah, but it was more when they first talked about the way they walked, and that was very cat-like, and it was literal, and you could almost see it was the Kilrathi Mark II.
Yeah,
the Star Citizen version of the Kilrathi, but they weren't Kilrathi, and that was because of copyright. So yeah,
I'm having a little bit of a lag problem. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, well,
at this point, I can see we soon have at least 2 pages of questions. More questions would be nice.
Yep.
Now, Tech Zero says, "Space cats, please. We do have flat cats. Flat cats are a thing in verse.
Well,
they are a pet."
Yeah, they could literally do the Karathi and just change their name. They really could.
Yep. They can do whatever they like.
The Meowmanites, or something like. I don't know.
Yeah. The Phenomena.
Yeah.
And also would be a nice system to have as well, because that's where the Osso skins come from. And Osso skins are from a sentient species, a species that's kind of like not as developed as we are. But why they want those skins? It's those skins. They change color or that. So
it would be kind of funny though to do them like as the Karathi. You know how they're like big cats, almost like He-Man sized cats. If they were like the Cyan and they were small and cats, that would be funny. Almost like you could have so if the Cyan are like Chinese, you could do the cats like they were Japanese or something. You know what I mean? And they were on the opposite side of the universe, but they found out that they had like a kindred spirit with the Zion or something. That'd be kind of like, you know where I'm going, right? You could do a similar Asian culture, but anyway, you get where I'm going.
There are a lot of historical reasons why that's probably a really insensitive idea.
Oh, whatever. I thought it'd be kind of cool to share the culture, but if you say that way, that's fine.
Politically incorrect is what he's saying. Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean it like that. I meant it as in they're cute and fuzzy, but okay.
All right, okay.
Rabbit wants to see aliens from Sesame Street. Yep.
I meant it more like Star Kitten and what's the other one? Hello Kitty and stuff like that. That's how I meant it. Anyway, right.
Easy, the autocrat has a question.
Yep, go for it.
Will they give game codes for extra copies of Squadron 42, or would you have to gift the pack they came in? Good question.
You'd have to gift the pack they came in. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think they're gonna, I'm more interested to know if they're gonna allow, like they're gonna keep people to their launcher and stuff like that, or are they gonna allow us to go to other platforms and play it? But we'll see. So, yeah.
Yep.
Ignore that next one. Just Rabbit asking, what was the question?
George Smith 2434 says, is it possible that the May event has changed to DefenseCon because it was easier for people to understand?
They wanted to sell Drake ships at that time, and they think it's a cool kind of lore thing to have Drake kind of attack Invictus, so to speak. But if you've been on the tech preview at all, when you go to the Bevet Convention Center, it's just covered in Drake shit. There's a couple other ships there, like the Retaliator, and I'm talking about pictures on the wall, Retaliator, and I think there was another one, but most of them are Drake. And the whole convention hall has got those, that grey brown that Drake has, just all down the sides. The big UEE statue with the, the hand one, where you kind of stand there and it looks at you. Yeah, that's not there. None of the flying ships are there. Well, I can't quite see up the back, but where the statue is at the front, it's gone. So it's all Drakeified. I could have done it differently, but it would have been more work. I would have had one at one convention center and one at the other. So you could have had Invictus at Horizon and
Dracon, because they're becoming bigger, they're doing their own at a different.
Wait, so we're not getting an Invictus? It's been rebranded to DefenseCon this year.
Yeah, and it goes for 2 weeks. It goes from 14th to 27th. But I think we are getting Fleet Week, but I think it's only going to be a week and it's in the middle. And I've kind of worked out that there's 5 ships, right, based on what's on the roadmap. But I think the command module's the first cab off the rank. And then after the, because if you take 2 weeks and put it either side, that essentially takes like 3 or 4 days, and you split it and put it either side of the original Fleet Week. So you get 3 or 4 days, then the start of Fleet Week. So that's where the first military thing will be. Another military thing, which I think the last military thing I think will be the battle cruiser, and then something else in there, battle cruiser, and then the very last thing is going to be the ironclad. And I think we're getting 5 things. And I'd have to assume one of those military things is the auxiliary, like the ground vehicle. And I don't know what the other military thing could be. So you could pick, but the only other, again, I've got this list here, Algared, of known. These are all the known things, and I'll read them, and one of them will jump out at you, right? Ironclad and Ironclad Assault, right? So at the end. Raelian, that's 2 weeks later. Funnily enough, 2 weeks later, Algared. See the pattern of 2 weeks? Command module at the start.
Beginning of start.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is another one that would work. Hammerhead variants. Dark with laser beams was commented. So I think that could also be one of the things within Fleet Week. That was one of the ones I was going to say that was going to jump out. Origin Generalist. I think that's after Alien Week.
Alien Week.
Yep. And we can go through that real quick. It's 3 people. It's an upgraded version of the Clipper, but we know there's meant to be variants for the 400 because it's the 400i. So you make it like a 400. What do we call it? We call it the 455F. I think
the 455F.
Yeah.
Just to go with
Yeah. And it's got a fabricator on it and a medical bed, just like the Clipper. And that ship would be.
So the F is for fabricator.
Yeah. And that ship would be perfect for that because where those climate controlled cargo areas are, you just put a bed in one and you put a fabricator in the other, and you still have the cargo bay for your materials to supply both those things.
Now, pure speculation in that regard, but it just seems to fit.
I'm going to skip the next one. That's the one I was talking about. And then the last 2 things I had written down was Battle Cruiser and something from Anvil because of what was on that AMD page. But now I think that's the Battle Cruiser. So the last one I want to read here, which is the known one, which is what I wanted to talk about, is the Kruger Stingray. So I think you can safely look at it, look at the 3 ships in the middle there and go Hammerhead variant, it's Stingray, and Auxiliary. That's where my brain's at. I think, and that's just based on everything we know. It essentially goes command module, Auxiliary, Hammerhead variants, battle cruise will be in there somewhere, and then the Stingray, and then the Ironclad Assault.
And if they were doing it the way they've done in the past, I'd expect battle cruiser and something like the Stingray or something smaller, because they always do the bigger ship and a small ship so that everyone gets to buy.
Now, just because it's come up in chat, do you really think we're getting a new Origin ship, or do you think it's going to be a variant? And I think the 400i is the only really contender I'd even consider. And I'll ask you the same question, Pete, after Algared's answered.
Well, we've talked about it in the past. I don't see them making a brand new ship. I'd like to see them pad out the series that doesn't have any padding yet, which is the 400i.
Pete, what's your take on the Origin ship? It'll probably be after the Raelian, after Alien Week. Yep.
I firmly believe it's a brand new ship. Jared said there's a new one coming from an old manufacturer. I think it's the Origin. I think it's just going to be a new one.
But they've called variants new ships.
Yeah, but I think Origin doesn't have enough assets to start building enough of its assets, so they need more assets.
But they've also done a lot of variants. It's like the last 2 years has been variant, fucking everywhere variant. And I think the reason they're doing this ship is to teach the new people how to make an Origin ship.
Maybe.
If you think about it, have they done an Origin variant or an Origin ship while all those new people have been there?
The easiest way to the CIG have done this with new hires in the past.
You didn't answer my question.
But I was about to get around to what you questioned by doing a little bit of a preface.
All right, go then. Go ahead.
I was going to say, CIG have done this in the past where they've given a new hire an existing chassis and saying, hey, modify this into something new.
That's a variant.
And if it works, and then good job you've passed, we'll move on to the next stage.
Yep.
So there's a chance that they'll do that with with something from the Origin line. And like you say, realistically, the only thing in the Origin line that is suitable to be adapted is the 400 series, because everything else in the line needs to be essentially reworked.
And the reason we picked the Generalist is that me and Algared kind of realized that it would be really good as a Generalist, and they've also said there's a Generalist ship coming this year. So if you line things up, what else are you going to turn that ship into, right? Like you've essentially got exploring,
which is basically what it is.
Yeah, it makes it a better explorer. So realistically, maybe it's not a fabricator, maybe it's a 415p.
Like I tend to think what we've got in the 400i is actually the 415p.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I don't think the 400 is an i. It's the Explorer variant. So it should be the 415p. Now that means if you go by their usual one, you'd have a 425i. You'd have the 300, the 400. You'd have the cargo variant. This can't remember what the Origin cargo variant is.
335C.
The 430, so it'd be the 435.
Yeah.
C. But yeah, we don't have that for the 400. Now, the fact that the 400i is, to me, is a 415p, does that mean that they actually just toss their nomenclature out the window?
The thing is, as well,
I don't know.
Part of the reason why I don't think it's necessarily the 400i, like it would be nice if it was, is because them modifying an existing asset doesn't really create a lot more assets they can use. Whereas if they create a brand new asset, they can combine those new assets to make a third completely different new asset.
Don't get us wrong, Pete. We want it to be a new ship, but we have to. We've just learned. We've got these realistic glasses on, right? And we've just learned it's never. Look at all the variants we've been given. And let's be honest, we hated them. We hated all of them. They just felt so cheap and shit, right? They felt because we knew they were trading people. But did we really need 3 variants of the Saber Raven that was already a variant of the Saber? No, we did not. Did we need the Meteor? No, we did not. Right, and all the other variants that were there, right? We didn't need them, but we know why they did them. And now we're starting to see the fruits of the labor where they're making so many more ships. It was a means to an end, right? And I go forward and I look at all the manufacturers they worked on. The only one I can think of that they haven't worked on yet is Origin. So at some point they had to go, what's the new Origin going to look like? How are we going to teach these people to make Origin ships? The only one, the newest ship they have is the 400i.
There's the 400.
And it's, agreed.
And it's the only one that I would consider even close to fucking luxurious. By a country mile. All the others have massive issues, right? And Algared would agree, Origin was there at the beginning. My first ship that I ever bought on Kickstarter was the Bounty Hunter package, which is ironic, and it was the 300i, which is not a Bounty Hunter ship, right? But you get my whole point, right? it's been around that long, and that 300i has been reworked a couple of times, right?
I can see where you're coming from, but again, think about how many times have CIG gone back after a ship has been made and concepted and then retroactively made a variant. It's not that many. If they're making variants, they normally do it at the same time as production.
Hey.
We agree, but they had to train people. And up until when they started training people, it had never happened before.
And look, Zombie Bombies 3 says it'll be funny if it's a new ship. No.
It won't be funny.
We're not saying it won't be.
We want it to be a new ship, but we have to be realistic. We've just had 2.5 years of variance? Come on.
Now, do I think that a 400i by itself fits? The 400i is its current naming. I think the name is wrong. Now that to me indicates to toss something out the window. Could it be a 6? Could it?
Algared, really important what 90s just said. Makes it really obvious. The Hornet has 14 variants. Insane. Anyway,
because you got the Mark 1 and the Mark 2.
Yeah, exactly.
He's right.
It's crazy. Anyway.
Another option for this new variant or new version of an Origin ship could be the 600i. They could go to town on that. But from what we understand, the 600i still needs so much more work. And it's so much bigger ship. The 400 is a smaller ship that gives them that ability to do that stretch, but not push beyond the limits.
That rework video was clear to say this is where we want to take it eventually, but we've got other shit to work on right now. And I would even say by the time they get around to working on that, Pete, Origin will be a whole new style. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see variants of that come along with it when it comes out to go with that the 600i moniker, as you and I put it.
We know that the 600i started life as a 635.
Yep.
To use their name, to use Origin's naming, because it came out at a time when there was a dearth, a lack of cargo ships, and Origin created the 600i cargo ship, which is, to use their normal name, the 635i or the 635c.
Yeah,
it was a cargo variant.
Maybe they even make a variant of that, and they sell a very limited number, but it's more like a finding game ship would be really cool, and it's a bit more. Same shape and all that, but the textures are a bit older, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, and you can find them broken down in the verse and stuff like that. That'd be a cool homage, and it would make Origin feel a bit more lived in.
I would love to see, finding blueprints for old ships.
Yes.
Or discontinued ships that you could build.
That's what the Aurora is
going to become. The Mark 1. And I think. I think the Aurora Mark 1s and the Mustangs will go down that line.
Yeah, absolutely.
There'll be rewards you get for doing stuff. They'll chuck them in as a blueprint you can build, And
same with the Mark 1 Hornets, all the old ships.
Yep.
So you'll still be able to earn them if you want the older ones, but they're a reward for going and doing something. Hey, look what I did. Yep. I went out and got a Caterpillar and grinded all this shit and got the pirate skin on the Mark 1 Caterpillar. Yeah. Bang.
And that'll be no different from doing the, if you did Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO game. Back in the day, you used to do the data cubes, and if you completed those, it actually gave you a boost to your stats, and you could say, "Oh, I did this."
The data crons?
Yeah, the data crons. Yep, the little, you got those, and you got boost to your stats.
I had them all. I had every single one.
Yep. For the dark side, I had all more. But yeah,
that's the fun side.
But it was the fun was going out and getting them and then saying, "Yeah, I've got that." And I can't see this being any different because it's a game, it's an MMO, and it's going to take elements that MMOs have done since the beginning of time, since Evercrack. So yeah.
Robert's suggesting that the Origin ship's coming in Invictus. I'm going to be honest with you, Robert. I also heard him say after Invictus. So I would say it's probably 2 weeks after Alien Week. Makes the most sense to me. I've never seen Origin ship for sale at Invictus. Have you, Algared? I would never
No,
expect to
because
see
they
it
don't have
sold
any
there.
military.
The fact that they've had to make an entire defense con to sell Drake ships around Invictus should tell you that what you are smoking is copium.
And the only Origin ships I could think of that would make an Invictus type sale would be the 325A or the 425A. Sorry,
what Robert just
the 125A, the M50. They're the only military ships.
Again, they're the two. The two exceptions that are the A's, and I reckon in hindsight they never would have made them. I've said that to Algared many times.
He has.
Because look at Kruger. That's Kruger's job.
Yep. In the new line of the way we're doing it, I think Kruger is taking over that fighter aspect. It's about the 125, the 325, the M50. They are the fighters for Origin.
Again, if something is sold there like that, so now he's pulling other things out, like the Starlancer Max, that's because the TAC was sold and they just wanted additional sales. It should never have been sold. Again, they don't follow their own law a lot, but it's meant to be a military sale. That's what it's meant to be. So the other thing that could be interesting, if it's Defense Con, if any other manufacturers turn up, you're right. But do you honestly see Origin turning up to a Drake Defense Con? I'll let you answer that. Would Origin turn up to a Drake event? Because that would be where it was sold, at Defense Con, not at Invictus. And I'm only going by law, so feel free to let them throw that all the way out the window.
I would expect to see the 25As at Invictus.
Yes, that will be there.
And I think they have been, but that's it. I wouldn't expect to see an 890 jump or any other Drake ship
exactly,
or a 400 line.
I agree, but we're arguing over a time. And if you already look at the ships that are in the lineup, there's the ones that I spoke out in the lineup. I remember them saying that it was coming after Invictus or after Alien Week is what I remember. I have it in my head. I don't remember where I heard it, but that's where I heard it. And I would say it would be 2 weeks after Alien Week. We'll wait and see. I'm not going to argue with you over time. If you are right, you are right. If I am right, I am right. But I think
you're both wrong. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally irrelevant.
I think realistically, if I had to bet, I've never seen an Origin ship come out at Invictus because it's military themed. But a couple of weeks after, much like we've seen the whole B beforehand and the Mark II, because again, if you'd asked me to bet, I would have said the Mark II's coming in Invictus, wouldn't you? Like, such an iconic ship, it just kind of came in the middle of nowhere.
The only vehicle or ship that I can recall that came out at Invictus that did not seem to fit the mold was the Lynx.
Oh, agreed.
The Ursa Lynx, and that was the luxury version, and it was like, what?
That does lean weight to Robert's argument. It does. But by the same token, that was the shittiest Invictus we've ever had.
And even when they did that, they kind of tried to sell it as your command module, your command crew going off on some little jaunt.
Yeah, they said the generals use it or some shit.
Yeah, so they tried to tie it in with the military aspect, but yeah, it was clutching at straws more than you could claim it Execute's clutching at straws for some of the things he says, or I'm clutching at straws for some of the things I say. It was that stretch of what is not the norm. Now, are we saying what you guys are suggesting is wrong? No, it could be. We're just going on what we see and saying what we think. So.
All right, next question.
Anyway, next question.
Hold on, before you go to the next question, please stop. Execute, would you right-click on my name in Discord, please, and just lower my volume like 100%? Because people
won't make any difference. You're already on 80. I'll change it. Yeah, it's not all right. Did it now speak?
Hello.
Did it get lower for you guys? It won't have made any difference. All it is quieter for me.
Yep, quieter for me too. But I'm using Discord as well.
If you speak.
Hello.
You're exactly the same as what you were.
Yeah, and they're saying, stop yelling at us. So
you have to turn it down on your side, Pete. There's nothing I can do.
I'm at 25% and I'm 6 feet away. I don't know what else to do. Al, please fix something.
It's Algared's fault, not mine. Algared's got to fix his shit. So I can turn everyone else, everyone else is totally good.
Apparently it's fine. You fix.
Fuck off. All right, fine. I'll turn it down then, you sucky fucks. I can't hear Pete at all, but all right.
That's fine.
All right, you're back down to 54%.
They're saying way better. They were saying way better. Well, there you go.
Thank
Well,
you.
if that's the case, then I'm going to turn Algared down. Tell me if Algared gets quieter now. I'm going to turn Algared down to like 80%.
Yep. Am I quieter? Is it working?
Did
Am I
Algared
better?
go
Is it
quieter?
nicer?
A little bit, yeah.
All right.
Nicer.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. No, Pete doesn't scream. He gets excited.
So
It's like I get excited at times.
Okay, so Algared did get quieter. Interesting. So is he too quiet? Is Algared too quiet now? No, I didn't realize Discord had this effect. Usually Discord doesn't make any difference in the recordings when we do the recording.
No.
Maybe
So they said I'm at 200 and on Discord, and you guys are at 85.
I had Algared at 125%, so I put him at 100%. Is he too quiet? I might have to turn Algared up.
Am I too quiet down? Am I good now?
All right, I'll put
I'm always good, but you know.
Is Algared now in line with the rest of us?
Talking, and you guys can tell me whether it's good or not.
See when you're not
And I'll try and get excited.
Algared, stop. See when you're not talking. That's the static that you've got to fix. Your filters are off. You see it? Now I've turned it up to like 100 and whatever percentage you're up to now. What are you up to now? You're up to 150 now, so I added an extra 25. So Algared is good now, all right? Good.
I'm sorry that took so long to mention, but you know, I didn't want to interrupt.
I did read the message you sent, but I thought it was an older message from back before.
Oh no, okay.
Oh, he's louder than me. Right, okay, well, I'll turn him back to 125. Because he's a bit loud for me. Anyway. So hopefully he's better at that. But he's got to go and put his filters back on. He uses a different software to me, so it's something that's a bit of annoying to go through, and Agri's just not as technically savvy. But we get there, don't we? I'm a little quiet today also because my voice is rooted. Can I turn my own volume up? Nope. Let me have a look. No, I'm at 100%. Oh, I could probably turn this thing up. Hang on. Does that make me too loud?
Yes.
Oh, too loud. All right. What about now? Hello?
It's louder.
Yeah, it's louder, but is it too loud?
You're no longer peaking.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not worried about the peaking. I can fix that later. All right. I could have also turned it up there. That would have made more sense, actually. Hang on. Well, I don't like doing sound when there's a live stream. It's like the most boring thing to watch.
Yep.
Interesting. All right, what about now? There we go. I just turned myself up there. That should do. All right.
Right, in fairness, as boring as it was, it's nice not to assault chat's ear holes.
There's a visual.
I would like to comment every now and then, and I don't want to be assaulting chat every 5 minutes.
No, that's fine. All right, Agro, next question.
Next question is from Altzilla C. Star Citizen. Squadron 42 is announced at Invictus. Could that mean the Javelin is released or be shown off at Invictus?
I think Javelins are a bit further down the pipe. I think they've got other priorities right now. Again, a bigger ship like that is for less people. And what is the need for it in game right now? We don't have the stations. We don't have the need for that bigger warfare yet. You know, they clearly need the base building in. Once base building comes in, you're going to get all those ground turrets. I think it's going to go to ground combat before Javelins, personally. But yeah, I think Javelins are just, they're not as needed gameplay wise right now. Do you know what I mean, Algared? I know you know what I mean.
I do agree. I don't think that we'll get Javelin at Invictus, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do another.
Your volume is like going up and down on the fly, Algared. Are you playing with your filters? And now you're completely muted. So whatever you're doing, stop it. Because I can't hear you. Your mouse moving, I can't hear anything, and I didn't touch anything. All right. What about you,
They're
Pete?
doing groups. There might be a reason for javelins fairly soonish. Maybe not this first iteration, but further down the line. These big fleet battles around the corner. There's nothing bigger than a javelin at the minute.
Yeah, but it's just a need. Like you really need more server tech online as well, because it's a much bigger ship, and if you have 80 people on that thing, like, there's just some things. So I could see it coming, but I still think it's like a year or two away. It's just a need versus want, and I don't think the need is there yet.
Sandgroper does ask the question, Javelin soon or after Squadron 42? And I always remember CIG saying the Javelin would be after Squadron.
They also said the
they did
Idris
say
would
at
be.
the same time, the Idris would be at Squadron. So we got the Idris already, and the Javelin is going to be after Squadron. So does that mean the Javelin is now at Squadron? And that would be my guess.
Do you also think they made?
Have they changed something else?
Do you also think they made the modules for the Javelin yet, Algared?
No.
So that's why there's additional work to be done on that thing. Not that the modular system's that complex, as in now they've got tech, but they have to physically make those modules. So it's got this additional work, and again, it comes down to need, and I just don't see the need. And pick a gameplay that we don't have. Is one of those a module for the Javelin? Does that therefore hold the Javelin back, or just that module? Or do they, again, I'd have to treat it a little bit like the Aurora, so I'd have to assume maybe it'll come with two modules and then later maybe more.
And they could easily do the Javelin with its modules and just do the six modular rooms are initially just cargo space.
Yeah. Cargo
modules. And then bring out additional modules later on that they sell off for.
Yeah. 90s has got another good point there. No Javelin without weapons kits. There's no way they're going to release that thing with not having kits for it. Much like the Idris, and I'm pretty sure they'll do the same thing with the Kraken. We've got one conversion kit for the Kraken, but I think you've got rocks in your head if you don't think there's at least one more coming. I think there'll probably be one or two more coming personally, but
I would expect them to do something like that, because it means they can not only sell more Javelins or more blueprints, but they can also sell more things that the Javelin people already own. But people who own the Javelin are going to buy those additional kits.
And because they're under $1,000, they can sell, it's on selling. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's upsizing, yeah.
What about you, Pete? You reckon we're going to get kits with those two when they come along, the Javelin and the Kraken?
Probably. Like if we're looking at the kits that came with Idris, they didn't seem that high effort assets. You know what I mean? They were just, especially the torpedo one. It looks like the same, the front end selected, scaled up, and then shipped.
Yep. But what they're really designed for is progression of an Idris. So you essentially get an Idris, you upgrade it as you go along. It's for an org to upgrade into, and get all the little bits and accessories, and then you can customize it however you want. So again, essentially what they're showing is they want org progression, or something for orgs to work towards. I want to go get the torpedo launcher blueprint for the Idris, and we work.
No, yeah.
That's
let me clarify. That sounded a bit harsh. Compared to the ship itself, the bolt-on modular front bit feels a little bit slap and dash compared to the fantastic asset is the Idris. I'm just saying, it's not bad.
Yeah, but you can see that, and it probably won't be the last ones we get. Like, they wanted ones to sell, but they also wanted a form of progression for those orgs. And I think it's the same thing you'll see with the Kraken, so you can customize your Kraken how you want. You can, again, clearly in the Javelin, it's the modules. They'll have a bunch of different modules you can pick up. So the kits will just be a modular kit. Or do you want this module for the Javelin? It's the same shit, different bucket. But they want that. They clearly want progression. Yeah.
That's the age-old problem every MMO game has.
Yeah.
And that's no different. We are an MMO, whether you like it or not. We're just a very big, all-inclusive MMO.
Right. Next one when you're ready, mate.
Yep, I was just getting rid of some Nightbot questions.
Same here.
I Hudson Hawk, and I'm going to include you with this, Pete. I want an opinion of Execute and Algared separately. When is the release of a Pioneer, in your opinion? I have Grimm's opinion, and would love to hear yours.
We don't have base building yet. Pete, I can hear my own voice through your mic. Pete. Right. But I think base building will come with the build. Clearly that's what that thing was made for. The last thing we heard was the Forge was paused. So if the Forge is paused, it could also mean the Pioneer is paused. I would have thought before the pausing it would have been next AIE, not this IAE, next. But now with the pausing, you know, around about.
Is the Forger ship, like, is it one of those silhouette ships from CitizenCon?
Yes, Pete. It was the Consolidated Outland one. They confirmed it was Consolidated Outland. And it was, it basically had a, they added a bunch of shit to it. It had a fabricator. It had underground extraction mining. It was basically a mini Pioneer in a lot of ways.
How do we know?
Because I heard it was in one of the things that it was paused. One of the ISCs, they said the Forge has been paused. And if that's been paused, then I have to assume the Pioneer's also potentially been paused as well for similar reasons. And I think it's because they've made a slight pivot to crafting and then refining before they can do base building. It has to come in order, because if you don't have that gameplay, it doesn't work. You have to be able to pull something out of the game, refine it, turn it into a material that then can be turned into the crafting, but also into the base building. And so crafting's easier to deal with because it's smaller before you build these massive sprawling fucking bases. But all of it needed as foundational for the game. Algared?
No, I think, we don't need the Pioneer to do base building, because we're going to have a build to do that.
Agreed.
What you do need the Pioneer for is to build the start module for the star bases.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't think they're going to be in a rush to bring out the Pioneer. They'll bring out the Pioneer, I think, just before they move up to that
good point.
Because we're going to have land-based building from the build, or the land bases up at Starbase.
But you'd probably also start out with something smaller like outposts before you go into full-fledged cities, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And I think those smaller building modules are going to be building those outposts and building up the cities. Yeah. But once you've got the start of a settlement, you don't need the Pioneer anymore. The key thing the Pioneer was for, one thing that no other ship but the Pioneer could do, was build that start module for the starbase, for the space station. And so when they're ready to do the starbase and bring those on, that's when I think they'll bring out the Pioneer.
Yeah, Brian Havoc said it. Yeah, it was John Crew that said it. I just can't remember where I heard him say it. The Forge was paused. Yeah, it was John Crew that said it, in my head anyway. I have to. So one of the things that Algared and I have to do is we can't remember where we learn everything. There's too much, so we just remember it. And then if we have to go find it,
14 years of
it's just too much. It's just too much. And the only reason me and Algared keep it fresh is because we talk about with each other so much, right? And we check each other. Like, and I can guarantee you now, we wouldn't have the knowledge base we both have if we weren't calling each other all the time.
No. And it's the same. It's the same with why we like, nabbing with Graham or Paul or even Pete. It's because those different voices, keep us having to pull that material out and hold each other accountable and
also
remind each other.
Also don't mind if we're wrong, because then it keeps it correct. That's the other part of it. So yeah, and we do get things wrong. We're only human.
Yeah.
Eventually, Algared, I'm going to have to replace you with AI We'll get an egg avatar made. But I welcome our new robotic overlord.
The problem will be that it will never be as sexy as this one.
But it'll definitely be more quiet. So there's perks. And I can just press the mute button. I can just press the off button and turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll never insult me. It'll be a good boy, So.
Mm-hmm. I very rarely insult you. Come on.
I'm kidding. I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
See how harsh he is. See, who's the one who always gets insulted? Chat. Who's? I'll just put it out to chat. Anyway, Pete, what was your view? Because I did say I was going to ask you that. When do you think the Pioneer will come?
I think.
Can you volume up?
Can't hear you at all, Pete.
Can't hear you at all. It's like you're talking through a filter or something.
I was complaining, so I turned it like.
Your head is up your ass. Don't turn it down. Leave it where it was. It's so quiet. It's not funny.
I can't hear you at all, Pete.
I can't hear you at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. It was so quiet. Like it was so quiet.
It was like.
Yeah.
What's your opinion, Pete?
Yep. Go ahead.
How about now?
Oh my God! Just speak.
I can't remember what the question was.
When do you think the Pioneer is coming out?
Oh, it's not going to be this year. It's going to be when base building comes, and they're going to craft middle of next year, maybe. It depends how far they go into crafting before they expand onto base building.
So would you say?
I think they're going to go into. I think they're going to go into custom hangars. No, not necessarily even then. I think they're going to go into custom hangars before they go into actual base building, because then they've got an asset library they can use elsewhere.
True, but I don't think me and Algared both just said it's going to be the build before the Pioneer. That's why the whole build was built. Yeah. I think the Pioneer's need has been dropped back a little bit. It's just too big, and you've got outposts that you kind of need before you need even a big outpost before you even get to something like a Pioneer's for a city, or if you think about if it's for an org, right? If everyone's got their own, essentially their own little outpost in an org, you know what I'm saying, right? That's like 30, 40 buildings. You can scale that back from 1 or 2 to 5, 10, 20 before you get to 30.
But in video games, the larger assets and buildings are made of smaller assets and buildings. So making them first makes sense.
Exactly. So,
which is why the builds make sense coming first. And the Pioneer's cool, and it's one we've all been looking forward to for forever. But start small.
It's a bit like the Endeavour.
Right.
I think half the reason was paused too because they also used it to work out some of the kit for Consolidate Outland.
Mm-hmm.
And once they'd worked out enough, that's also why they would have been working on the Forge too. You and I talked about this. They needed to work out the gap between the Nomad to the Pioneer, and that'll allow them to go back to even ships like that that hauler that we found. So they can grab different styles from the things that they did have. If they're going to do the Forge, they're probably going to do something that's Connie, and then maybe something rather like around Galaxy size. So it's probably at least another 2 ships in there that they can do before they actually get to the Pioneer to get that kit polished out to just speed up the production of the Pioneer.
Yeah, and there's Robert and a couple of other people in Twitch saying, the CSV is probably before the build, and the crafting cart probably before then as well.
So the 2 that I'd probably expect is the crafting cart and the build. They're the 2. What they showed at that CitizenCon. Exactly that is what I'm expecting. Something for if you don't have a build, so you can just chuck in the back of your ship, almost like what we've got with crafting. We've got a dedicated crafter and a clipper, and then we've got this fabricator box. That's exactly what I'm expecting. Yeah.
Yep. No, fully agree with that. And but once we can build buildings with a build or the CSV or anything like that, the one thing you can't do with any of those is a starbase. That's the one thing that from what I gathered from CitizenCon when they talked about, that was the one thing that neither ship but the Pioneer could do. Is build that platform which would enable you to build a starbase. And that they don't need the Pioneer before then.
Was it? That was just the Pioneer could hold the drones that could build the space station. It's the only vehicle we know that holds that size drone.
No, it was the Pioneer is the only. What they said was the Pioneer is the only thing that can build the dock that builds the entire entire space station. So it builds the first part of the space station. You
So the
cannot.
Pioneer doesn't use drones.
You're not listening to me. Remove the drone things from your fucking head.
Okay.
It builds the first part of the space station, which is the cargo grid thing that you drop all the cargo off on, and that has its own drones that builds the space station. So it builds the cargo dock that the entire space station is built off. It builds the thing that builds the space station.
Yeah, but is it building it, or is it the drones that it
You're
holds?
looking for a law reason.
No, I'm not. Because if it is the drones, then there's many other things that could hold those same drones.
Even if it's the drones, based on what they've said, Pete, if it's the only ship that can build that, it's the only one that can carry the drones that build that.
That's
Yeah.
it.
It's the same argument.
That's the same argument. You're looking at a law, as I said, you're looking at a law reason, not looking at the fine print.
Now, could they now, in answer to you, Pete, could they bring out another ship that has the same size drones that can do the same size job? Yes, but I don't think they will. And part of the reason for that is because there are more pioneers in the verse than they thought would ever be there.
Yeah.
Because I can remember Ben being literally mind blown by the fact that he was talking to people in an org, and he said, "Oh, how many pioneers? You know, you've got a pioneer." And I said, "Oh, everyone's got a pioneer." And he was like,
Oh, it was. I believe
does everyone have a
the
pioneer? It
answer
was
was 11, and they only had 20 people in the org. And he's like, because they, which also shows a failure. That they are probably now understanding they've got a failure of marketing. You know, you don't. You know, an org needs one pioneer, but maybe I don't know, 50 people. You don't need. Yeah. So this is the thing that they've oversold things.
which is great from a funding point of view.
Yeah.
But then it gives them problems in terms of the verse and how the verse
and the whole buyer's remorse thing we've been talking about for years. You know, how like, here's the question. Algared has a pioneer. I have a pioneer. Do I fucking, and we're in an org, do I leave so I can use my pioneer with a whole new org? Or do I stay with my friend and just never use my almost $1,000 ship? See the conundrum.
Why not both? Why not parallelize the use of the drones and build everything twice as fast?
Because they need twice as many resources. And
you need the same amount of resources. You're building the same thing. You're just building it quicker.
More fuel, more. What if you can't think about the number of fabricators on that thing? Like, if you can feed it, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. But if you don't have the people to feed it, then it becomes a burden. This is what I'm saying. It's a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword, and that's often the thing that people say in terms of the big ship owned down. It's that hard to do, but if you've got that big ship and you can struggle through, earning those things to get the smaller ships will be a lot easier. But it is also that the double-edged sword. It is also that that harder aspect as well.
First time chatter, Fox Hawkins says, contradict yourself out to people without a pioneer, just as there would be plenty post-Moroni. Yeah, but not all of them are going to be in an org. Not everyone's going to want a city that they have to permanently defend. And you got to remember, it's not a javelin that you can go, all right, Algared's pissing me off today, bye, and leave. It's a permanent landlocked location that you have to, planetary shielding, you have to defend. You're going to be high value assets there. You're going to build it on a mining vein or whatever it is that the reason you build there. You're not just going to build on a vacant lot. You're going to build somewhere that's something someone else is going to want. Right? And you add all that in, how many people have you and I talked to Algared and all they want to do is get in their prospector and mine? I don't want to play with anyone else. I just want to play on my own. Well, we've heard it.
You'll also remember talking with Sandy.
Yeah.
And we said, "Oh, what's your favorite ship?" And Sandy said, "Oh, the Drake Cutlass."
Cutlass, yeah.
And it was so that she wasn't tied to a base. She wants to go exploring. She wants to travel the verse and go to different systems and see everything.
Yeah, basic.
And so she doesn't want to be tied to a particular system. Whereas once you build a base, you're tying yourself to that area. But you're going to need, as Rabbit says, you're going to need to repair and
we actually did a question.
Have power packs.
His
and
question
it is
was,
a question.
will players built structures degrade and require repairs? Well, based on what we've
Yes.
seen on the ships, yes. And Algared and I have
Yes.
theorized this years ago, because again, we've had it now confirmed. We did a video, like 7 or 6 years ago now, where we went really in deep on what we thought they were proposing, which was a room system, but a room was just a container. So basically, and they've confirmed that now. So a ship is a container, an asteroid is a container, a planet is a container. Anything that you can put a room system in, a space station is a container, right? So basically, when you work that through, if you have the systems work on all the systems, like so the outside of a ship has wear and tear, so does the inside of a ship have wear and tear, well, then that means that you can essentially clone that technology over to the inside of a building, and therefore you just clone it out to the outside of the building. So basically, yeah, if Algared and I build a house and we have a divorce and we take the kids and leave, that house could fundamentally break down. The Maelstrom system could break it down. We've even seen photos of ships, haven't we, Algared, with the vines
And stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is all part of it. So we've even gone as far, Algared. You and I talked about this. Could we go into Pyro and take over one of the relaxing, what are they called, the R&Rs, and bring it up to the same standard as Stanton? That was something you and I talked about.
It's one of the things I've always thought of. I'd like to do is go to a rundown village and just by doing commerce and maintaining it, build it up, have it repair or do stuff. And Chris used to talk about, and this is going back 2014. He'd talk about if an area was going well, you'd see less graffiti and less rubbish to be clean and polished. But as it was going through hardship or oppression or stuff, you'd see litter and graffiti. And that's why in some of the systems in Stanton, you see, Microtech is seen as all lovely and nice. Hurston gets a bit grimier and dirtier, and other places get more graffiti, and you see it in... And
that also leads into the high security, low security, and all that, because that can now be... You can clearly see they want everything dynamic. So if player choice is... We really, they put a rare resource in an area, and the good guys, so to speak, move into the bad guy area, kind of take it over, and the bad guys kind of loop around, and they take over. Do you know what I mean?
Another area.
Yeah, exactly. So this whole thing becomes this dynamic universe where, and we've seen it in everything else from buildings. Like, look how we theorized the buildings things too, didn't we? At one point, and that's coming to pass. That was a couple of years ago.
And we've seen
cities,
and we've seen them
moving in and out.
We've seen them talk about, doing repair to buildings, so replacing fuses and other stuff. And I think that there were some missions at one point where you had to do that. Yeah. We haven't talked about the old Gold Horizon abandoned stations for a while, and I think part of that is because the old Gold Horizon form they had was done by the redacted group that was Ilphonic. It was done by Ilphonic, and they used the wrong measurements and stuff. Yeah. So
the only one that me and Algared have kind of still a little bit up on the air on, and I think you'd agree with me on this one, Algared, is what makes an outpost turn into a town or city? Like, when does it go from these free-form buildings to more of the grid city system? And you've seen that in other games, by the way, like SimCity and what was the other the Evolution one that they did? When you go from a town to a city, there's little differences, but it'll probably be a population cap thing, and either the AI or you can found as a town, and you might just place it next to your outpost, and then all of a sudden you can start putting streets, and the buildings would start to move over, and the town would probably start to move in. Or maybe that foundational town is the center of your city, and over time those buildings get kind of broken down and turned into a bigger building.
I think we're going to get a version of that fairly soon. With this, I think we're going to get in the main storyline for this year, actually, with Nyx. Right. I think with Nyx getting, the planets getting terraformed and stuff, and there's stories about the UEE poking their nose in, I reckon it's going to be like a player event where we get to decide, is the Nyx system part of the UEE and things like that, and will that affect the look and style of the system in any way?
They talked about these dynamic events way back in the beginning. Player choice being everything. We theorized events like an asteroid coming.
We sort of had it with the Hurston jump gate.
Like
kind of in a small scale way.
Yeah, but imagine an asteroid coming towards a planet, and you've got to mine the shit out of it and break it down before it gets to the planet. Stuff like that. We've a disease outbreak, so it's a medical one. An invasion. Like we've gone through again and again and again, like all these ones that they can do, and you've kind of seen the start of those with like the Xeno threats and stuff like that. A quest chain, and then a big ship turns up. These are all test beds for those dynamic events that they want to do, and they will probably pop up. I don't know how often they'll pop up, but let's just say maybe one a day across the verse.
Yep.
And it's like, an event's broken out, and I'll fly over there and do the event.
I can remember Chris talking about when Guild Wars. Was it Guild Wars 2? Yeah, Guild Wars 2 came out. I think it was. And they the way they did their world missions, and it was when a boss mob was up, everyone basically in the area got the announcement that the boss was up, and everyone focused on it. And Chris really liked that idea at the time. And you can kind of see that with the way the missions are and the dynamic events are. Everyone kind of goes, "Hey, come and join us and help do this mission," and you see that kind of tying in. And if you're looking at where the gameplay goes, look at every MMO you've played and enjoyed, and you're probably going to see that type of progression in Star Citizen, whether you like it or not.
And how many times along Algared did people call us crazy, and all we were doing was reading the docs that they'd written and laying them next to each other. It's just that you've only got to miss one thing and you can't kind of connect the dots. As I said, it goes back to me and Algared checking each other, talking over this stuff. It's not about being right and wrong either. I think that's the other real big thing, Algared. We tried to be correct for a really, really long time, and I think it was about 2018. We just went, no, there's too much here.
We just went, no, it's too much. We're right, we're wrong.
Yeah, it's getting to the truth. So, like, if someone comes out now and say, you guys are a load of bullshit, we'll just go, let's go have a look. Even if I know I'm right, I'll still just go, I know exactly where I've got to go look to see that I'm right. I'll go look just to make sure it hasn't changed. Because that happened too. We had that with the, remember the cargo amounts with the, this is a couple of years back now, the MSR, the Connie, and the Corsair changed. They'd all been exactly the same for ages, and then they changed. And you and I missed it. It was really, and I was like, oh, he's right. So we went and looked at it, and then now that's something, again, me and Algared got checked. We added into the thing, and we go.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right, so Parker. Parker says, this is Parker XGPS says, how likely could an Anvil Odin be the first of a class? Most likely.
I think it's pretty obvious at the moment it's the battle cruiser.
Like, if it's... Yeah, and generally, the first of a... if you think of the ships, the Dreadnought, the class of ship called the Dreadnought was because the first ship of that class was called the Dreadnought or Dreadnought. So to me, that just is bloody obvious.
Just even obvious though, little things like that. They're also naming it after a battle. That's also showing that that's them replacing Aegis. Like going from the Idris stuff and the Javelin to this. I don't know. I'm just going by the lore that I know that has been sitting there for over a decade.
And the stuff that for donkeys. I mean, donkeys. You'd hear sound files that Anvil was building this.
I think that turned out to be the Liberator. But
I do think that did, but
I don't. I also, we now know that they call those things Corvettes, but they're not actually Corvettes. So let's just. So in my personal opinion, that's not a capital. The Carrack's not a capital. I just, and we proved that when we talked to them about the Ironclad. It's like you call the Polaris a Corvette. It was the first ship ever called a Corvette. Now you're saying that the Ironclad, the Hammerhead, the Perseus is a class, but they're a completely different size class. And you've got combat and non-combat versions. Like, pick your lane. Like, it don't make no sense.
Yeah. And it really was that when we had the discussion with Ben and John, that was probably the biggest thing. Their naming their class naming system is just totally
broken.
It's whatever they decide.
And you'll talk to people within the community, and they get really heated about it. They get really. So we just asked them. We just flat out asked them, like, why is this a Corvette? This is a Corvette. And then I just went, that makes no sense. I said, how can you have what I said about the Polaris and the Ironclad? And he just looked at me like he didn't know how to respond. He just didn't reply. He didn't know how to say anything. He didn't have an answer.
Oh, I think there wasn't. I think it was kind of, crap. Yeah. Because at the time it sounded like a cool idea. Yeah, we want a Corvette. Yeah, it should be about this size. Should do this. Almost as if it's nothing to do with size, nothing to do with the size of the ship or the weapons on the ship, but the role that they
just how they feel. That was the other thing. There was a lot of vibes going on.
So it's a feel thing and the role it does, the job it does.
Yeah. Because we were fully expecting a ship above the Ironclad to get the Kraken, weren't we? That's kind of where the question came from. And there's like, no, there is none. It's from that to the Kraken.
They said it's the Kraken. It's the Ironclad. The Ironclad is it. What?
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. Like when we asked him, John says, "Oh yeah, when he asked the question, the Ironclad had been in production for already." So, and it was like, but that's not a Corvette. So yeah. Anyway, Citizenverse. Do you think they will sell space stations?
I would think I think after what happened with the land claims, and I also think knowing that a lot of the value of the Pioneer is in the ability to build a space station, I think it would be a really bad move, personally.
To sell pre-made stuff.
Capitalize on it. They'll sell skins for space stations instead. So like the Revel and York.
Absolutely. They did talk about decals as well, didn't they? No, I'll give you that, Pete. Yeah, skins and stuff. And you could charge $300 for a skin for that thing because it's massive.
Yeah.
I could see them selling the blueprints for different styles of station.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant now. Yeah. So you've got
100% see them doing that.
It's a complete redo of all the assets.
Yeah. I don't know about you though, Pete. I do have a requirement though. I do want Algared's Uwu Girls Pain Sex Dungeon Space Station. If I don't get my skin, I'm going to be very upset.
Now, would that be black and red, or would that be like pink and?
It'd have lots of spikes on it. Lots of spikes.
That would be Execute's dungeon, I think. Yeah.
No, it'd be all bling bling. So it'd be Old Man Hurston style, Hugh Hefner. All the, just like what's in the background behind Algared there. All posh. Real laid out, really elegant. Playboy bunnies everywhere. Right up there. Real good quality stuff. Blackjack and hookers territory. They'll all turn up. You can do like a casino as well.
But I do think they'll sell blueprints for different styles. So you could probably get something like Wicklow's bases built because, hey, he's now got Wicklow style, or Banu style. In that sense, you'll get an origin style. You'd get your landing bases, your Revel and your
Well, it goes further too, Algared. What happens when people move on because the resources are worn out, and then it comes right around again, and it all moves into this dilapidated station, and it's all been stripped of the modules and all that because the salvages came through and ripped everything out of value. You earn it again, all back in, build it back up.
Yep. And so I can see them doing that. I can see. I'd hate to see them sell pre-made stations because I think that would be taking away from the value of a Pioneer.
Yep.
So Pioneer builders are going and build the station to the specs that people want. And, hey, you provide me the mats, I'll build it for you. It's a bit like any MMO when I need something crafted. Yeah, give me the mats, I'll craft it for you. Or you can pay this price for this already made one. I can see them doing that type of stuff. And they've always said player-made stuff will be better than anything you can buy. So why would you buy pre-made space station that's stuck
Hmm.
when you can buy.
So, Algared, I did talk
Amazon.
to you about before. There is a bar. So, this is a question from Datsun Insult. I've actually just cut it on the line.
Mhm.
Did you guys know that there is a bar citizen on Sunday the 31st at 1 p.m. at Brewdog? What he didn't add there is where the hell is Brewdog? That's in Brisbane.
Yep.
And I was thinking
Yes,
about
we
going
have
up,
had that.
and if Algared can make it, he's possibly considering going as well. But yeah, May 31st at a place called Brewdog. I don't know where that is. But yeah, if you're in Brisbane, reach out to Datsun Insults and tell him you're interested in going, and see if we can get Bops to come along. I'm looking at possibly going. But yeah, Fortitude Valley, which is that's kind of like where all the games used to be made back in the day. Don't know if it still is. But
I have loved going to Bar Citizens and meeting with people. It's one of the best things about the community.
Yeah.
But it's always tied in with when you can go, work, etc. And
well, I got friends.
that'll be a determinant for me.
I got friends and family out there, but I'm just interested in seeing the friends, if you know what I mean. So yeah. All right. He's dropped a link here as well.
Yep.
Let me have a look at this real quick, so we can open this just to help people out. Right. You're done here. Jimmy's done. Oh, it's a Spectrum post. Should be safe. Hit the right button. Don't know if I did. Yes, I did. Right. So it's not even an event you deserve, but it's an event you need. Sunday, May 31st, Brewdog, 235 Brunswick, Brisbane, Queensland, 4,000, top floor near the shuffleboard. The gathering, post eventually. Oh, God. I just realized this is like 3 days after launch week. I'm going to be screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't
Probably
come, by the
says
way,
that-
it's because I'm too tired. After 2 weeks of no sleep, it usually takes me like 2 weeks to recover. So if I don't come,
want him there.
yeah,
You don't want him there after 2 weeks of no
I
sleep.
am a crabby mode after 2 weeks.
You
but
don't
I
want him
would-
there after 2 weeks. No, no.
But I would really like to come. Well, we'll see. I'll have a think about it. But yeah, you should have made it after Alien Week. That would have been safer. Yeah.
A Saturday would have been
I
better.
did say I would promise some people to get up there to a Brisbane one. So, you know, if you want me to come, we'll have a talk about it and we'll try and get up there. But yeah, and I'll see if I can have a talk to CIG. Maybe we can get some ships to give away to Brisbane.
I would
how many
love it.
how many people Datsun Insult have you got interested at the moment? Just let me know. I'd be curious to know if you can in chat. Sorry, Algared, you were saying?
Yeah, I would love them. I always try to, whenever I've organised or helped organise Bar Citizens, I've always tried to do them on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for people travelling to different locations. But that's just me.
I've just checked that link in chat, in both chats. So if you're interested or from Brisbane, and even if you're watching the VOD or the after the fact thing, the link should be in chat there for you to check out.
So 11 so far, which is
11,
not too bad.
That's pretty good. You got a month and a half. Agreed. How long do you normally give people as a heads up for a Bar Citizen when you do the Sydney ones? Is a month and a half enough? That seemed like enough time for me.
About a month.
Yeah, people saying it was short notice. I thought they were on crack, but they are Queenslanders, so you never know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So a month, 2 months, something like that.
A month and a half. Cut the cheese. It's fine. So I think there's enough
Yeah,
time.
so.
Well, I could still get flights. I looked at flights yesterday. It was about $250 a return. So, you know, the only problem with you, Algared, is if you can get the Monday off or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
So Algared's got some conditions he has to jump through, but he can make it. He'll probably try and come. Also.
If I can make them, I usually do try and go. But yes. All right, Thorn 43210 says, "Do you think there will be a new Origin ship during Invictus?" And we did kind of talk about that. And the only way I could see that is with military, so no.
Yeah, I'd say 2 weeks after Alien Week.
And I can't see one in Defense Con either because it's Drake.
So 2 weeks after.
Mikey,
so for 2 weeks after Alien Week is what I would assume.
Mike Galecki says, "Do you think they won't let you buy back Squadron 42 because they're going to do a bundle with it for AMD, CPU, and GPU, like they did with the Crimson Desert.
You'll have to. I'm replying to someone.
Yep, possibly, but I think it's they're doing it as we discussed earlier. It's stopping the grey market or the black market or whatever you want to call the selling of game packs.
Yeah.
I don't think, or selling accounts. I don't think it's anything like that.
You would have to imagine the way grey market sellers work and black market sellers work, and CIG can just look into the buybacks and see how many are there, and see how many of these accounts have, and go, we're going to lose $20 million or whatever, and they're going to look at certain accounts. Yes, it does affect the guy that's got one or two, like most of us, but there would have been people that had like hundreds. And they would buy them all back because they know they would sell them all.
And they'd sell them all at a profit.
Yeah. And CIG loses that profit.
You know, so CIG sells a new pack at $60.
Yep.
You bought the pack at $15. Sell the price at $30. You're making a killing, and you're still undercutting CIG. And that's why CIG will kill it. Yeah.
So it'd be like buying a cheap CD key off one of those daft websites, but it'd be one of these people selling the... Right, okay, I get it now.
No refund, no... You know, do they scam you and they don't even give you a copy of the game? You see what I mean? So, yeah, they're doing it for new customers, not for us. It's for new customers.
Yeah. It protects the new customers, and that when they're expecting so many, it's you don't want that coming. And something some people have wanted them to do for a long time. Is kill the grey market. So,
but they probably also had a lot of black market sellers that already had them sitting in their account. So I know they could have just turned off the option to gift. That's actually what I would have done. I don't understand why they removed them from buyback, because if you want to buy them back just for yourself, like one, that should have been fine. So I don't understand why they should have just made them non-giftable. They didn't have to make them non-buybackable. You get my point? Anyway.
Yeah. Valka Prime on Twitch, first time chat. Is there ever any Star Citizen events in Melbourne? Yes, there have been. I've been to at least 2 Bar Citizens in Melbourne.
I do know Evo ran one, but I've never been to one myself.
But there has been one in Melbourne. The very first Bar Citizen I think that was run was in 2014 at PAX in Melbourne.
That's true. I did go to that one, as did you.
And that was the very first Bar Citizen, I do believe, and that was actually run by, or that one was actually organised by Osmonauts, if I recall correctly. But there have been other ones run through the Bar Citizen Australia group in Melbourne. Probably almost an equal number with Sydney and Melbourne.
I think we need to start Ossifying it and call them, instead of Bar Citizens, call them BBQ Citizens. Or BB Citizens or something like that. Because I actually think it's better, because kids can turn up. You can still do the alcohol if you want. Families can turn up. You know, kids, you do it at a park or something, the kids can go do what they do. By putting it in a bar, you restrict who can turn up, and you lock certain people out that can't get away from their family or kids or whatever. So it just really limits it. Where if you put it in a more public place, there are drawbacks, obviously rain, weather. You know, you can't guarantee the whole area is going to be privately to yourselves, but you can limit that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it might just be a better way to do it. Personally, public citizens, competing citizens. That's a good idea. I like that. Yeah.
I feel like I need to point out that learning that the Aussies invented the Bar Citizen is peak stereotypes. Thanks for that, boys.
You're welcome. We are the leaders in inventors, by the way, per population. I don't know if you knew that. Because we're the end of the food chain for so long that we invent more than other people. Solar panels, Wi-Fi, all that type of shit. All came from
adversity breeds innovation.
That's it.
Yep. Tech Zero says coffee shop citizen, and I was going to say when I was in Indonesia we did cafe.
Oh, that's true.
Citizen.
Cafe citizen.
So
This
cafe
true.
citizen. Which was,
This-
but yeah,
I
so
would
there
prefer
has
drug
been.
citizen.
No, I prefer. I'm definitely a cafe.
Floor citizen.
Cafe. So
We'll see.
so yes. Citizen Ninja. Do you think Grey's Market backstang might have an interior like the backstang does, of the bangstang? So the buckstang have an interior like the bangstang. I'm not
I
sure
don't
what
know
he's saying.
I think he's trying to talk about the Mustang, and he's calling it the Bangstang to try and be funny. So I think he's talking about, do you think the Grey's Market Mustang will have an interior like the other Mustangs? So again, he's fucked up his own joke because he said it twice. Not necessarily, because again, it's a Squadron 42 asset. It's potentially an older asset. It's also an amalgamation of a couple of different ships, so it could or it couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I think it's going to be I think you would agree though, Algared, it's going to have a different interior to the other one.
Yeah, it'll have a crappier looking one because it's a Grey's Market. So, Danny Delusion is not delusional, but he does say, how far off do you see Proclaimer rework? And do you think they'll pull us Mark II?
It's this far. Exactly this far.
Mm-hmm.
That's how far it is, isn't it, Algared? Pete, it's this far, isn't it? It's exactly this far away. Pete,
it might be a touch further.
Oh, that's pretty
close to that.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah,
it's that far.
Is that metric or imperial?
It's palmination.
All right, yeah. So
two palms away.
Mm-hmm. 2 palms.
Yeah, 2 palms.
Can't
Big slab left and big slab right.
Danny. But basically, we can't tell you. We just know it needs one. Do you think they'll do a Mark II? I could see them doing it because
it goes both ways. It depends how long it takes to do, the amount of work and effort, and how much overhaul is required. There's a lot of extra space in that ship, so I'd kind of lean towards more no. It's more of a gold pass situation. But there are certain ships where they're just so screwed, where it's just you've got to make some massive fundamental changes. So the Caterpillar looks like it needs to be widened a little bit. The Corsair, not the Corsair, sorry, the Connie, it's trying to do too much in too much small of a space. It needs to change a little bit, you know. So there's certain ones I can, you know, so certain ones I think that need Mark II treatment, and there's others that don't. And it's also how they want to sell them. It's a mixture of factors like marketing, how it's perceived, what they want to do. Yeah, I can't call it.
Yep. Brian Havoc wants to know when we're going to have a competition of 5 video games between you and me, winner gets bragging rights.
But if any of the games are before 2000, you'll probably win them. But if they're after 2000, you've got Bickleys and no chance.
First person shooter, I've got Buckley's and no chance. So,
well, there's a game I've been playing this week actually that I thought would be up your alley, but the combat's a bit hard, so I think it would take you out of it. But have you heard of Winrose? It's this pirate game. It's really fun. It's like, think about Ark Survival Evolved or any of those crafting games, but you're pirates and you build ships. You can go around and shoot people like in Black Flag, and then you find islands. You explore the islands, little quests and stuff. But the fighting can be quite ruthless, and that's where I think you'd struggle. But if you were with some other people, because you play it co-op as well, single player, you'd be okay. You could probably be the healer, Agate, and just heal everyone. Because there is a healing class.
In MMOs, I often was the healer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, healer or crowd control was usually my role.
Yeah, you can make like a bald wizard-looking character and go around and just heal everyone. Be fine.
It would most likely be a bald character with a goatee because that's what I do.
Well, a couple of
you probably know as you've seen my using character.
Well, it's $40 Australian if you want to pick it up. I mean, me and Lentz and Glane and Warbot have been a bit of a crack with it, so if you want to have a look at it, let me know.
Sangrapper says, let them do an Oregon Trail playoff. Who gets the worst death? Well, that'd probably be me. Although, no, my luck, I'd just live and thrive because it's the complete opposite of what you expect. Rabido7 says, with the new command module tech, could we see modules like the DM, but with the universal module that can accept power plants, shield generators, etc., thus allowing a player to boost a certain aspect of their ship, allowing for more specialization?
Well, I think from the very outset, if they do have different command modules like they've suggested for the Caterpillar and the Ironclad, from a developer's perspective, that is clearly a module. Clearly, 100%. Just somewhere along the line, it makes it longer.
Also, that is a really cool concept. Having like a module that can bolt onto an airlock and then that boosts the actual thing it bolts onto in some way.
Well,
it's a really cool idea.
You know the ship from Obi-Wan Kenobi's in Episode 3, how he has the ring on it?
The ring, jumping ship.
Yeah, so you connect it. You connect to a ring, and the command module can then jump.
Yeah, cool.
We thought of that ages ago, and that is how you could actually sell it as a standalone ship. Have a ring that attaches to it. It is just a standalone ship, and it might not have to be a ring because obviously it's got landing gear on it. But you get my point, right? It's just something that connects to the side of it that allows it to warp. Hell, it could just be a floating log that's an engine, But you get my point.
Yeah, with the docking port interface being standardized, it could be literally anything. It could be like a massive shield boost.
Well, that was Algared wants it to only be able to connect with other Drake ships. But I also said it'd be kind of cool if it could just dock with anything. Because you could fly over and get resupplies from somewhere else. It also makes it a bit of a boarding craft. There's a couple
if you can dock, the thing that I don't want is the Drake module to link onto
control. I don't want to
control and then take control.
No, not taking control, just docking. Yeah.
The control feature just needs to be for Drake ships, but the docking, fine. Stove 5877 says, what if when the Mark IIs are released, they give all Mark I owners a $50 value increase, for example, so you could trade up with something better or keep it? Look, they've done that type of thing in the past. They did that with the Cutlass when the Buccaneer came out, because the Buccaneer was supposed to be this fast fighter, which is what the Cutlass was originally. I don't think that ended up working well for those people who did take the upgrade, because the Cutlass Black ended up becoming just an awesome ship. But they could do something like
squeaky wheels, Algared. Squeaky wheels.
Squeaky wheels. Caliban Rex says, that's a comment to someone. Rabido7 says, how could the alien races tie into the ship progression through 3 chapters?
Well, new ships from the aliens that only the aliens use. So, for example, the Banu are taller, the Zion are shorter. So you could have physically smaller ships that humans have to kind of, crouch over, and Banu don't have any hope of getting into. But also you'll notice the tech on the Zion and the Banu, they're floating. Because if you have a floating chair, it automatically adjusts to the height of the character you're using, and the Zion do the same. You'll notice they're both floating, because that way a human can just sit in it without, and obviously if you go to, do you really think we're probably too young to make human? I think the only example I can think of, Algared, is the Zion taking the plans of the whole series and building their own versions in their own system.
Yep.
But we're not really,
one of the things we've talked about.
We're not really making ships for them, but they are making some ships for us because of economic reasons.
Yeah.
But they would mainly be making their own ships for themselves.
I get the idea that they can build the Hull C under license. Whether they bought Hull Cs and are using Hull Cs, don't really know. We don't really know the relationship between MISC and.
But
we do know it. We do know it the other way in some cases, though. Like the Cartel Scout,
but we do know
is a human version. The Raelian is apparently meant to be a more human version.
The Raelian has both human and Xi'an sets in them. The Cartel, the owl on the end is not me. It's the Xi'an for human market.
Yep. Santokiai is another one. So again, these are ships that are really tailored at humans. So therefore, you'd have to. It stands to reason that there are other ships that they use, like a medical ship, or what pick your gameplay. That how many people were saying they wanted a Zion miner for years? Algared, you and I have heard that. Yep. They're going to have their own mining ships. The Banu are going to have their own mining ships, or the Banu's so ruthless that they just basically hire other people to do their shit.
Yep. All right. Renegade 1428 says, there is a joke about Squadron 42 Idris being a Mark II, but with everything going on now, can this be true? Also, in your opinion, chances of an F8C being CCUable soon.
So the
now,
Idris
in terms of the Idris,
let me talk about the Idris thing. The Idris we have in game right now is not as same as the skin that's in Squadron. That's where that rumor comes from. And eventually I think it'll be updated, but it probably isn't for Squadron 42 reasons. Anyway, Algared.
Now, in terms of that, even though Squadron 42 takes place 10 years ago, the Idris is a significantly older ship. The Idris dates back to Ivan Meza. So, yes, it could be a Mark II of what we've got. And we could be using the older versions that were out there. Do I think that's feasible? No. And I think if there is a Mark II, they're just going to update all our ships to that new variant anyway. The F8C, anything's possible. Rabbit 07, I'm going to try and rapid 5Es.
Go for it.
Do we know if Star Systems and Star Citizen will be catcherable by Vanduul if players don't defend them? Yes.
A part of that dynamic thing me and Algared were talking about. We think it's all dynamic and all interconnected.
In fact, when I was talking with Aaron many years ago, back in 2014, he said, if we don't move into a system and the Vanu are there and don't contest it, it will become a Vanduul system. Likewise, if Operation Pitfall went into a Vanduul system and held it long enough, the UE would end up coming in and defending it.
Yep.
I've not heard anything
I think there's hints
different from that since then.
Well, like what Pete was saying, there's hints of that happening in Nix.
Yep.
Like what you were saying, Pete, about this year. You there, Pete?
Yeah. No, it'll make sense, yeah.
So I haven't heard anything from CIG to counter what Aaron said in 2014. I've got to assume it's still true. Father and Son Gaming says, any news about CitizenCon in person this year? No.
I think we'll get that at Invictus. I think, like, usually the earliest we've heard about it is February. Usually we've heard about it by April. We are getting towards the end of April. I think more than likely it's going to come along with... how long have we been saying Invictus for Squadron 42 announcement? Like 2 years at this point? So I think it's all going to be in that announcement. Squadron's coming. It's coming at CitizenCon. Here's your CitizenCon thing. 6 months of hypes. A new ship every 2 weeks. Blah 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 blah. Here's all the packs you can pre-order. Blah 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 blah. Like it's all going to hit like a freight train. And I think it's tied in with the Drake thing because Drake's going to come in and go, yeah, we're Drake, and they're gonna. It's almost like a misdirect. So Drake's going to come. They're going to this Drake celebration, and then Invictus and Squadron are going to be like, no, and then it's like, it's so it's a misdirect. I can see what they're trying to do. It's a cool marketing fuck on you type of thing. You thought this, but really it's yes.
Okay. Aiden BQ1ZS says, just wondering if we bought an Ironclad and it's got the command module in the photo. Do we get the module for free? They sell it separately. Yes.
Yeah. It'll end up being a little bit like the Carrack when you imagine Algared. You know how it had that pack with the rover and the Pisces? It'll become an Ironclad and command module.
Bit like you buy a Constellation Phoenix. It's got the Ursa and the P-70. You buy an Aquila, it's got the P-72 and the Ursa.
Why would they ever sell an Ironclad without the command module? It doesn't work. You can't use it.
Exactly. But again, it's the perception of it. And again, he might be a new person. I don't know how it works. It's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
But was it you, Pete, that said it, or Grim, that they'd like to see other ships that use the command module?
You were Grim and me.
But
both.
He's even like one of the things me and Grim have talked about is it docking with the Kraken as a life pod, or even the Kraken having one. It doesn't control the ship; it's just the life pod. I reckon that makes a lot of sense.
And that solves that problem of having escape pods, which they did say they could possibly bring in. So yeah.
What is the Drake escape pod system. It's just a ship. Solves the entire problem.
Yeah, they don't have escape pods. They have a shuttle.
Yeah.
Bourbon Gaming. Have they talked about the business model going forwards as far as free system expansions versus paid game packs for Mixture?
They've talked about wanting to do expansions if they're successful, but this is many, many moons ago. I'm talking 2014 type of period.
Yep.
And that's why you probably haven't heard this in a really long time, because it's a really long time. It'd be whispers now compared to. I'm sure you could find it if you had to, if you want to go back through all the old videos and find exactly where it was said. But that's half the problem, right? It's so long ago that people just go, "Oh, it's changed." We also had that confirmed by John and Ben. If we haven't heard about it, it hasn't changed.
Yep. And that's something we'd often said in the past as well, that, they haven't changed it. Everything's the same. I've got to say, that's one of the things that CitizenCon in 2024 was really good for, because when they said, this is where we're at, for us it was like, yep, confirmed. Oh, that's a bit new. But it actually set everything brought everyone up to speed. That's the current level where everything is. And if I hadn't talked about it, it was still valid.
I know he says there's a joke there in chat, right? But Tech Zero says escape pod for the Cutlass Black is just a dragonfly in the back. Now you remember what was the dragonfly? Do you remember the original back when the Terrapin, and it was an Anvil Terrapin, an Aegis Terrapin? Do you remember that page? It was an Iron Man flying suit, is what the dragonfly was. So you're actually not that far off, believe it or not. That would be really cool if there was a suit that you could keep in a suit locker, and that's your little escape pod.
Jump out,
just it gives you a boost, allows you to jump maybe once. That's it.
Get you away from your ship, and you can do a beacon.
Yeah, you can do a beacon, or it gets you closer to a space station, or you can probably fly for 10 minutes, but it'll get you it'll get you there. Right, that's the main thing. So yeah.
Or at least get you away from the blast zone of your exploding ship.
Yeah, it is more horrifying, but man, I'm sure I could find it if I actually. You do the next question, I'll see if I can find it.
Yep. So Tech Zero says, "See that we got the Star Kitten skins for the Drake Dragonfly. Would we ever get a Star Kitten skin for the Drake Ironclad?" I'm going to say no, and part of it is marketing of Star Kitten.
Yeah.
The Star Kitten Dragonfly was one they did ages ago. So putting a skin into the Dragonfly and making it removable is, rather than just being a set thing.
Can I be honest? I actually think you can get it for the Ironclad and for the Kraken. They kind of been coming back and doing those skins, but in a similar
getting
style,
rid of all the cat,
but not with the cat on it. Yeah, so you'll probably get a pink and white one.
Yeah. So that would be the way they do it, but it wouldn't be the same as the Dragonfly, which is what I'm drawing on. Citizen Ninja says, could the Stingray have a beam gun? Yes, it could. Or do you want to see it more like an Ares variant? I want it to be different. I want it to use Kruger weapons. No Kruger ship should use anything but Kruger weapons, in my opinion.
Do you reckon the
P-72
will be
using
one of those, concept ship they showed us?
Sorry?
Do you reckon the Stingray will be one of those concept ships they showed us when they showed us the Kruger lineup? Those five?
Me and Algared actually went back and looked at all those. That's where my starting point would be, because some of those ships were way too big. Like I can definitely find that and bring it up. Hold on.
Which one do you reckon looks most Stingray-ish?
Yep.
If you had to guess, obviously with your educated opinions.
I'll just
Papa Levesky on Twitch, first time chatter, says, I like the suit idea. Yep. It's not a bad idea.
So this is the original one, if I can get it open. This one. God, it's tiny. I'll flip this over. Hold on. Are we over? Yep, we're over. Right. Yeah, so we ended up basically getting a form of A, but yeah, as Pete suggests, look how big they are. They're massive.
Yep. And if you can't tell me they're not, they're not different sizes of Kruger ships. But you look at the P-72, it's actually got bearing bulldogs, I think, or Badger repeaters on it. But they should be Kruger guns, because Kruger make ballistics and they make laser repeaters.
You can also change the scale, the scale of some of these, because obviously the Saulian came out of Aurelian concept, but it obviously got made smaller. So you can, again, these are just concepts, and you can swap and change things. But like, I think of a manta ray, I kind of think of a wider at the front, thinner at the back. You know, like a stingray. Obviously, it's going to, and you can't not have a stingray and make it look a little bit like a stingray. Is that a bit weird? To say, or?
Oh,
It's got to be D,
not at all.
because if you sort of turn a stingray backwards, it's got those trails, the tails.
So you're telling me you want the D? Is that what you're
No, I'm
asking?
saying if I had to pick those, if I had to pick one to be a stingray, I reckon it's D.
You want the D, right? Okay.
He wants a D.
Yep.
Right.
Gotta be honest, it could be a mix of a whole bunch of different ones. You could take things from different parts. You know, you could go, oh, it's got to be the biggest one. One of the hopes that me and Grim have talked about that we want is we really would like to see some internals. I can't remember what the really cool idea he had was for it, but it was like the Eclipse. So imagine the torpedoes off the Polaris Algared or the Javelin, but like an Eclipse variant. So you've kind of got someone in the back that's loading, and then the guy in the front that's shooting, but it's more of a medium ship than a small like the Eclipse.
Yep.
I could see that. As soon as he brought it up, I was like, yeah, that would work.
All right, next question. Zeta Udan says, with the Hammerhead variant, what are your thoughts on having an AoE flat guns or having AoE flat guns? CIG long ago talked about different types of ammo.
The only hint we've got at all, and I got it written down here, is sharks with laser beams was the only hint we've been given. And again, that to me was along the lines of what I was saying to Algared, upsize the guns but lower the number of them.
Yep, I could see that.
And maybe make it a beam variant even.
Yep. But other than that, we don't really know much.
Yeah.
We know there's a variant and that's it. That's killer question. So, sorry, Pete?
I said mining hammerhead.
Yeah, we thought of that too.
Yep. That's a killer question, says, that's a killer, says in their question, what's the likelihood do you see of a Gladiator Mark II now that they amended the comlink to the same way they did for the Hornet Mark II pre-launch?
Yeah, well, Algared basically, and I talked to them, and they said that I have to do a module for the bombing variants.
It either be.
I think it's pretty good though. It's also got skins on it now, which kind of tells me someone had to work on it to put a skin on it. So I think at least a little bit of work's been done on it at some point. I'd just be interested to see if they're going to bring that module back in. It's always been a great looking ship. I'd never bring the look into question. It's just its function, yeah.
For the age of that ship, it's still very good and it's functional. It's just the torpedoes are a little small. You can upgun those.
It doesn't
but
seem
it's
to
the
mind
modularity
that's fine.
It's the modularity of the cargo bay, the bomb bay, and other things that work with it. So it'd be nice to see that. And the only question they had was more they'd have problem with the modules because it's such a big space.
All right.
But, yeah.
I'm gonna
Havoc.
I'm gonna shut the bot down because we've got 5 minutes left and we've got like a page of questions, so we're already gonna go over time.
Brent Havoc 6875 says, X, what do you think of the high sec armor? Red and black, kind of your thing.
I said that
yes
yesterday on stream. I said, why are all the shittiest armors in the best colors? It's just that simple.
There you go. So he doesn't like high sec armor, but he loves the colors, which is fair. I can see that. All right. While you're getting that up, Zeta Udan says, what if a related ship to the Hammerhead was a variant that used AE flak weapons? Well, we just talked about that. Space Pumpkin kind of says, do you feel the supply bay for the space stations be a blueprint that will do you feel the supply bay for space stations be a blueprint that will be extremely difficult to acquire?
Well, just
make it easy.
Just make module blueprints. So again, it'd be probably a lot of a less of a rep grind than a station. But again, I think stations are inherently linked to pioneers. They want you to have something that, clearly there's going to be some kind of tie between the city below and the station above.
And it's going to be a massive grind to get done.
Yep.
So you're going to have to grind your way up in terms of getting the blueprints. You're going to have to then get the materials, and the base of below is basically going to be hopefully supplying all those materials you need. So yeah, it's not going to be something quick and easy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I agree. I didn't know who said it in chat, but yeah, this skin is too close to the original wolf already. It would have been cool to see it go in a different color direction.
Oh, nice.
It is nice. It's basically makes it carbon fiber for those that haven't seen it again.
Yep. Boozy 3.
Store not selling their skins properly.
Gear Canoric 7307 said, welcome to basic membership. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And first time chatter, single error. We do love a good grind. Well, thank you for that bit of information. Right. Boozy 3050 says, just a comment. Somebody please name a space game where you need to find over 100% purity in an ore. You still have to refine to make something. Can't tell you one, but thank you for your boozy comment.
Yeah, I do think we're kind of waiting for refining. It's going to change the game a little bit. Anyway, keep going, Algared.
I think you're right. We don't have refining, and that's why everything's basically as it is at the moment.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, or tier 0, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yep. Space Pumpkin kind of, or Space Pumpkin Dave says, or will they sell blueprints for the supply bay? Yes, possibly. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not really sell them. No, I don't think they'll sell them. I think they'll be in game. It would be bad taste to sell a module for something that you can't buy. Yeah. Anyway, next one, Algared.
Unseeable thing. What do you all think of the Pioneer War Bond coming up for sale again today? Didn't see it.
War Bond
hadn't seen it.
Sale again today. Well, now I've got to go look.
Apparently.
All right, next one, Algared.
Pioneer War Bond.
Have a look.
While you're looking that up, Vandal 11 says, how far do you think we are from seeing drones?
Base building. Basically.
About this far?
Yeah. Right on. Bang on. Pete, you agree?
Yeah.
You got it right? Bang on.
It's probably a bit smaller this time, but yeah. Feel free to chop in on these questions as well, Pete. Just
I was just thinking they're going to need drones for that daft mine ship that they planned, aren't they? So it's going to be around base building time.
Yep. Malabar says, if we got the Hammerhead and a variant, what Hammerhead variant would you be looking forward to the most?
A Hammerhead variant. I'm going to be honest. I'm not really looking forward to the Hammerhead much at all. View offers.
I'd quite like a mining variant, like I said.
It actually is available. Buy right now.
Yep.
He was not wrong.
Nope. But still only 6 months insurance.
Yeah, which I probably would not do with a ship of that size, but yes, I will check Algared.
No, can you CCU to it?
That's what I was going to check. I already knew. Right ahead of you.
And because if you can, that means it's no longer limited. Now that would surprise me. But
yeah, that would surprise me a shit ton. But in fact, to the point that I'd probably
buy an upgrade.
Yeah. You are not logged in. Okay. Why am I not logged in?
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'll go to the next question because Caveman Crafting says, I'll ask the question, do you think we will get the Pioneer before the Crucible?
Pioneer before the Crucible. Yeah, well, it's probably got more of a need than the other way around. It's kind of... And
the Crucible needs drones and the Pioneer needs drones and not sure. I could see it going either way, and either way would not surprise me in the slightest. Ashra says you can't.
Yep. Cool. Thank you, Ash.
Thanks, Ashra.
Well, that's what the mods are for, Algared.
It is. And that, when we're paying attention to chat, it's a good thing.
Yes.
Rabbito says, will player built structures degrade? Yes. I think we answered that before, but yes, they will. Everything seems to indicate that. Ships degrade at the moment. It's how you do wear and tear and get things going. Mr. Ayander says, prognosis, Liberator this year or next?
Definitely not this year. I think it's probably even longer than that, to be honest. Like, what is the need? And I think the pre-production stuff probably had more to do with the battle cruiser and working out the concept stuff for the battle cruiser than the Liberator itself. I wouldn't be surprised if it got paused. So what's the need for it?
Yep.
Unless you're bringing it back to that ground combat stuff I talked about after base building. That's the only other need I can add.
I will go back to Malabar's question because I didn't actually answer that.
Mm-hmm.
If I was looking for a Hammerhead variant, I'd like one that was a bit like the Liberator, the boarding ship, because it's got a great big boarding thing at the front.
Yeah, just real quick, confirming what Astra said. You can't. You can't go to a Pioneer, so definitely no CCs for that one.
So it's still limited, which makes sense. I'm rather glad.
Yep.
If you want a ship
I think the main reason is because when that ship comes out, it's going to go over $1,000. So they tend to not let you upgrade to those ones because it could be considered money laundering. So that's why they don't do that. Where they knew that Polaris was not, and that's why the Polaris stopped at $975. They put it to the maximum price they knew they could get for it without going over that threshold.
Sci-Fi Guy says, Sergey previously mentioned long ago that each copy of Squadron 42 would give an extra character slot.
That's correct.
Do you think that still is likely? I don't think it was for Squadron 42. I thought it was if you bought it.
No, it's not.
Star Citizen.
It's only for Star Citizen. This is people mixing up Squadron Bundle and Star Citizen. No, it was copies of Star Citizen.
So you get the game pack for the Persistent Universe. That would give you a character slot for the Persistent Universe. Having an additional prop copy of Squadron, from what I understood, did not give you anything. Now, I would imagine Sandy would want to make it so you at least got something, but I don't know of anything that's been said ever.
No,
so
not along those
watch
lines.
that space. That's an insult we did, Malabar. We've done that. Rabbit, with space stations, wouldn't it make much sense to have a capital class towing ship to move them around? It would indeed. In a sense, they've actually made space stations in terms of the Kraken. The Kraken is a mobile space station, especially when you take the shop version, the Pioneer, the Privateer. Vaca Prime, is there ever any Star Citizen? We did that. There are. That's the Melbourne question. Sorry. The Regenex says, has the Banner Merchantman been cancelled? No. They can't cancel it because they've sold it. I've only got half a dozen questions left. Awesome. Mornstar7 says, do you think the MSR will get a rework when they introduce data running? Or pass?
Let me honest, it's probably going to be like what we've been seeing in the past is when a new gameplay comes, it tends to be a new ship, and then it filters out to the others. I said the same thing about refining. You've heard me before.
Yep.
We've got the Expanse, we've got the Galaxy. More than likely going to get the one in the middle, whatever it's going to be. That'll probably be the refinery ship when refining comes. And again, it'll be a part of that hype train I envision.
I would expect when we get data running, we'll get a ship that is like an e-warfare ship, something that's really good at doing the job, and then it's whatever it does will filter down to the other ships. Do I think the MSR will get an update at that point? Not a rework, but certainly a gold pass to bring it up to standard.
Yeah, it needs a gold
with the
pass.
gameplay. And it'll be the same for the Herald and the Reliant data runner type ship as well. So any of those,
and the Saber
any of
Raven
those
as well.
ships, and the Raven, because the Raven is a data runner, as I continually tell people. Empire Nox says, X, you have a Pioneer in buyback, as I remember. What do you do if CIG removes buybacks before you get?
I don't have a Pioneer in buyback. I just have a Pioneer.
You know.
In fact, the one I've got has only got 10 years insurance or whatever is on it, but I'm hedging my bets on what happened to other things that went over $1,000. We've only got one such case as that, and that was the master set from the Endeavor. It was like 950 or something, and they added a second biopod module, which was like $100 and something, and it made the price of the master set go over $1,000. And it got retroactively every single one that had 6 months insurance got LTI. So I'm again that one that was on there today that they put up on the screen, which I've now closed. So
which was 900 and something. Yep.
Oh no, I do have it here. Hang on, I can bring it back over. 900. This is in Aussie dollars too, so conversions with whatever is it, 907 Australian. So that's what, 850 USD. But if you think about where the Polaris was at 750 and it jumped all the way to 925. If you make this thing, I believe that this is 925. It's meant to be. So if you add 10%, it's easily going over $1,000 because that would be $90. And usually it's between 10 to 20%. So I'm making an educated guess that this thing is going over $1,000 and it's retroactively going to get LTI, which is also why I think it's never, ever, ever been given a CCU, and it's never, ever, ever, ever not been limited. Because
I think
in their heads, it's always been over $1,000.
if you look at the standalone version, I think it's 950, but hard to see.
The standalone version is 1,017.50 USD. But as I said, because I had to log back in, it would have reset.
That's Australian dollars.
Yeah, so if I go down here to good old US of A, and we look at the freedom units, do this properly. Sorry, that's because I had to log in. Sorry, guys. But now we look at view offers. There, the correct price is $825 versus $925.
And $925.
So
there you go.
The proper price now is $925. Add 10%, because this is essentially war bond versus credit.
And if you
put that up by 10%.
And look at the package.
That doesn't matter. Look at the standalone ship and add 10 to 20%. You're going over $1,000, and that should retroactively give you LTI. And that's why I placed my bet and brought one with 6 months insurance. Worst case scenario, I can just melt it if I'm not happy with it, right? But it is just sitting in my hangar.
The package version is worth looking at because I know it's a big, massive pack now.
Yeah, it's not worth looking at.
It was small print, so I just thought it was that and a few things, but
all good. You'll learn to trust me eventually. I know.
One day.
It's hard. I'm very
I know
untrustworthy.
it is. Okay, so Pandamania says, do you think there'll be a physical Squadron 42 packs?
Just real quick, Algared. Sorry, I found it quicker than I thought I would. Yep. But there is my Pioneer with 10 years insurance. So I don't have LTI on it. It's the only ship I don't have LTI on. But it's an educated gamble, guess, whatever you want to call it, that I'm taking. And I'm hoping it'll retroactively get LTI. It won't. Yeah, anyway, that's enough of that. Go ahead,
it's a hope.
Yeah, it's a hope.
Pandamania says, or Pandamaniac says, do you think there will be a physical Squadron 42 packs sold? And will they be releasing the original Kickstarter physical packages at the same time?
Digital to start with, eventually physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even if they go to, say they start selling them in Invictus, Algared, I think you'd probably agree we would see digital packs. We'd agree with that, right? But maybe even potentially they might sell with promise of physicalization down the road.
Yep.
But I think realistically, if you're getting physical copies of a game, they're probably going to be sold through the store only on the website. I think they'll distribute them themselves. I don't think you're going to see a great number of them. They'll probably kind of do a pre-order thing. But if you want a physical copy, you've got to pre-order it and they get them made. But again, do you really need it? Is the next question. It depends what the physical shit is that comes with it. Do you get a Vandal Spear, or do you just get a Connie statue? What do you get? Is it Mark Hamill's face? Who knows? So that physical gear has to be so good to make you want to pay for the postage and shit as well. So anyway.
Jason Giles says, 7897 says, do you think the Reclaimer will get some kind of rework?
Yes, we said that earlier.
Yes. Then Ruga Bloodmoon says, do you think they will come up with an in-game event that occupies UEE to prevent Invictus this year? Yeah, they could.
Yeah, you'd probably hear
Although-
more about that at 4.8.
Although Invictus is an event which is the new recruits joining the fleet.
Yes.
So that would almost if you had a big event like a Vandal raid happening, wouldn't you expect it to be an expanded recruitment drive rather than just a week? So
We'll see.
we'll
I
have
don't
to
know.
wait and see.
Yeah.
And that was our last question because we had 2 Nightbots snuck in there.
Ooh, okay. Well, I did have a look on Twitch, but I can't really find anyone that I know. I looked for Australians. We're the only Australians.
Well, there you go.
Wait, what
There
the
you
hell?
go.
Who changed our things? It says Cat Cam sometimes, Salty Gamer. Who's playing with the tags? And it says it's finally here. I redid all that. That's weird. Go to dashboard. Hang on. I redid all that before the stream.
And you are obviously a salty gamer. That's clearly.
It even says Scandalous Lies. Why does it say Salty Gamer? I didn't do that.
Can't tell you. Can't tell you.
Anyway, let's go back to Twitch.
Yep.
Browse. Is there anyone that you would like to rate over before we... Pete, actually, we can let you pick.
Any,
Pete.
meeny, miny, mo.
Pete probably knows people better than us.
I
you still
kind of like Rat Scarlet down at the bottom if you want to give him a read, but generally speaking, he's very good at his PvP, but is primarily a Spanish speaker, so...
Oh, okay.
Okay, fine.
Right, was it Rat what?
He speaks English.
Rat what? Rat was his name?
Rat Scarlet.
Rat
I
Scarlet.
cannot find a Rat Scarlet on the screen. Can you guide my mouse?
Go down a row.
No.
One more row.
Nope.
Go down. Here now, like he's normally like the 10s. He's criminally underviewed, and it's upsetting.
Well, if we can find him, we'll go to
This
him.
is riveting shit. Trying to.
Yep.
I cannot see. There's no, like the word rat's not even coming up. All right, rat. I've got a rat. Hang on. Next.
Oh,
Marathon. Nope. I want to know who fucked with the tags on our channel. Was there really bad tags? Someone's fucked with
He
them.
may have just gone offline. He was here a second ago.
No, he's not there now. Oh, well,
offline.
I don't know who to raid.
Any, mini, miny, mo. Just pick someone. Pick someone who's in game.
Just don't know anyone. I don't want to go raid someone that nobody knows. Even playing Star Citizen. That's I'm just gonna look at some random ones. Avatar people.
There he is. Rats at Razor Fist. Was that who you were saying?
No, but go on, try it.
Where is it, Agrid?
Second blow.
Second row.
Launch time soon. That one. Next one
Razor
along.
Fist.
That one.
That one. Oh, he's got 23 people today. Just the one, Pete? Is this him?
No, but he seems cool.
Let's have a listen.
He's got glasses. He's got his aviators. He must be cool.
12?
Yeah, he
No,
looks...
no, they unlaunched
He's
like
Razor
14,
Fist, this
maybe?
guy.
It was, God, like
Alright, we'll give him a
2018,
raid.
2019,
Let's
something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, it was a long while ago when I tried it, and let me tell you, it's very different. I would say the main defining thing that I've noticed is it's
I'll just mute him
very...
for a sec. All right. Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. See you guys next week. Agard, have you got any idea what we're going to do this weekend for a show?
Yeah, one of those shows we talked about last week.
Oh, shit. That could be anything. All right. You guys have a good
I
week.
don't know.
See you, Twitch.
Take care.
Bye! And they're going. All right, let's have a listen in.
Because I kind of like the clunkiness of Star Citizen. But you know what? We'll take this game's temperature. I won't spoil anything. You're going to get my sincere reactions because I did play a little bit just to familiarize myself with, like I said, the innate clunkiness. But
I don't think
For
he's
those
even
who
got
are not
ratings.
apprised of the history of Star Citizen, first off,
No, he
one of
doesn't.
my series of rants on the subject, they teased this game all the way back in 2010? 11? 12? When was it? Gang, it's been a really, really long... It's been a long road.
Oh, you know Star
Long
Trek.
time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yes. It's been a while, guys. It's been a little while. So they're nearing 1 billion in crowdfunding right now. Now,
Wow,
granted,
he's
most
a
of
new
that is
person.
sunk
This is
cost.
interesting.
We all know this, but still, you guys know I'm a big Wing Commander fan, and as controversial as it is to say these days, I'm a big Chris Roberts fan. I've been a fan of pretty much all of his games. I generally like him. He has his detractors for sure, especially since Star
He's not
Citizen
reading his chat at
became
all.
a thing,
That's all good.
or is in the
All right,
process of
well,
becoming
we'll love
a
him
thing.
and leave him.
But
Au revoir, Razor Fist.
All right.
care.
Thank you for joining us, by the way, Pete. It was a pleasure having you. Even when we argue, I
No
still like
problem,
having you
man.
around.
Anytime.
It was great having you, Pete. I have
Love
to
you
say.
all. Mwah, kisses.
Love to have you here more often, Pete.
Hates my guts. See, he hates me. He loves you. Hates me. That's what
Yep.
it is. We figured it out now.
Well,
Execute
now I know. I
secret
don't feel
favourite,
bad
don't get me
anymore.
wrong.
All right.
I don't feel bad
Hang on,
anymore.
he's trying to say something. Shut up, Algared. What'd you say?
I said Execute is secretly my favourite. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
but
right.
Algorit's fantastic.
Oh,
Right,
gosh.
right, right.
Gosh, well, now he hates you again. You just can't win.
Yeah, no,
Algared.
you
It's fine.
can't choose. You can't choose.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
it's clearly we're have the poor kid struggling with mum and dad arguing and just
Yeah.
Who do you
All
That's
choose?
the kind of thing
Yeah.
you see. I'm one of those parents that definitely has a favourite child and they know who they are, so...
All right, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone who went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. With that, then, the voice in the void has been Pissed Off Pete. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
Dear citizens.